Fire and rubble litter the ground where an absolute massacre just went down, leaving nothing but smoke and silence. The Yunsung escort sign lies broken among a pile of fresh corpses while a mysterious figure walks over the carnage. Dozens of bodies coat the stairs like a grim carpet as Jian strolls through the graveyard he just built. Jian grips his blade, while Lightning, a scarred beast of a man, starts sweating bullets, realizing he's in deep trouble. Lightning gasps for air, his tough guy act completely evaporated as he stares at the monster standing before him. With a cold gaze, Jian asks the man if he's the one they call Lightning, showing zero emotion. Lightning freaks out, demanding to know how this terrifying stranger knows his name and his hidden past. Jian just smirks, noting how disappointing it is that Lightning doesn't remember the man whose life he ruined. Reality hits Lightning like a ton of bricks. He realizes Jian was a prisoner and desperately scans for an exit. Before he can even twitch, Jian's eyes lock onto him and he brings his blade down with lethal intent. Blood sprays across the courtyard as Jian's strike carves right through Lightning's arrogant face and chest. Jian towers over the wounded man, telling him to stay focused because they still have 12 years of debt to settle. Clinging to his life, Lightning finally remembers the ambush at the escort agency and the young boy he broke. 12 years ago, Lightning's bandits slaughtered the porters and looted the cargo, leaving a trail of death behind them. They didn't just steal goods. They dragged Jian and the survivors away in ropes to be sold into hellish slavery. Lightning remembers the fun he had, specifically the moment he pressed a red-hot iron into a young Jian's flesh. The memory of that agony fuels Jian's present-day rage, his eyes burning with the cold fire of a decade's revenge. Jian launches into the air, spinning like a dark storm before delivering a crushing blow that defies gravity. Lightning lets out a pathetic groan as his body gets absolutely dismantled by the sheer force of Jian's strike. The legendary first sword stands still among the wreckage, leaving Lightning a broken mess on the blood-soaked ground. Jian stands over the broken bandit asking if he remembers his name. The guy is coughing up blood, looking totally confused and terrified by the cold monster looming over him in the rubble. Jian breaks it down. 12 years ago, he was a simple porter sold into slavery by this gang. He towers over the bandit, who's now just a bleeding mess on the floor. The realization finally hits the bandit, and he grits his teeth in pure regret. Jian isn't moved. He just watches the man struggle as his body starts to give out completely. Jian leans in, his eyes full of icy hate. He tells the guy to remember the porter from the Yunsung escort agency even in death. He's done playing games with this trash. Jian slams his palm into the bandit's chest, unleashing a massive wave of energy. The ground shatters and the impact literally tears the bandit apart, sending blood spraying everywhere in a brutal finish. As the guy gets obliterated, Jian stares him down and finally drops his full name, Sama Jian. The pure power behind the move leaves absolutely nothing left of the man who ruined his life. Blood paints the walls and floor as the energy ripples outward, cracking the stones. It's a total mess, showing just how much destructive force Jian was holding back this whole time. Jian casually sheathes his sword, looking down at the mangled remains. The debt is finally paid. He stands amidst the carnage, looking like he just finished a light chore instead of a massacre. Jian turns away from the bodies, staring into the distance. He resolves that this is the last time he'll ever stain his hands with blood. He's officially retired and heading for an ordinary life. He walks through the sea of corpses as the fortress literally falls apart behind him. Huge explosions rock the place, but Jian doesn't even look back as the bandit's base turns into rubble. Through the dust, a massive silhouette appears. It's Cheol Wu, and he's shouting for his boss. He looks hyped to see Jian made it through the destruction without a single scratch on him. Cheol Wu reports that he freed every single prisoner held in the fort. He lets out a loud laugh, standing proudly over a pile of dead bandits he cleared out while Jian was busy. Jian gives him a nod. Cheol Wu is shocked to learn his boss was a slave, and he's curious if getting revenge on these bastards actually felt as good as it looks. Jian admits it wasn't that satisfying. He notices the fort leader isn't among the dead, but decides to deal with him later. Right now, he's got a much more important place to be. Cheol Wu asks if they're finally hitting the road for Jian's hometown. Jian looks up at the stars, feeling the weight of the demonic path finally lifting off his shoulders as they prepare to leave. The blood-soaked legacy of the first sword ends at this broken fortress. The scene shifts from the dark night of the raid to a bright, clear sky, signaling a brand new start for Jian. The two of them trek across a peaceful green hill. Jian asks if Cheol Wu is really sure about following him, but the big guy just smiles and says he has nowhere else. Cheol Wu is stoked to see his boss's home. Jian admits that escaping the demonic cult feels like a dream after crawling through that literal hell for most of his entire life. Jian watches the clouds, still in disbelief that he's free. The scene shifts to a flashback, heavy boots clicking against a polished floor as someone enters a grand, imposing palace hall. Jian stands ready as he enters the main chamber. Sitting on the throne is Quan Hyo, the leader of the heaven-reaching demonic cult, looking down with a terrifyingly sharp and authoritative gaze. Jian enters the lavish hall where the cult leader waits behind a table of food. The atmosphere is thick with tension, as guards watch the legendary first sword approach the man who holds his fate. With a steady gaze, Jian offers a formal greeting. He stands tall, showing respect, but lacking the fear most would feel when standing before the most powerful man on the demonic path. As liquid streams into a cup, the leader admits he secretly hoped this meeting would never happen. He sits regally, his presence filling the room while he prepares to test Jian's resolve one last time. The leader flings a cup through the air with a burst of internal energy. Jian doesn't flinch, catching the projectile effortlessly as it hurtles toward him, proving his skills haven't dulled for a second. Jian brings the cup to his lips and drains it without hesitation. It's a bold move, showing total confidence as he accepts the leader's silent challenge in front of the silent, watching guards. Putting the cup down, Jian brings up the old agreement. 10 years of service to the divine demon estate were supposed to buy his freedom, and he's finally here to collect on that promise. He reminds the leader that the decade has passed, and the specific conditions set 3 years ago are fulfilled. Jian is done playing the killer and finally wants his ordinary life back. The leader takes another sip, looking unimpressed by the mention of promises. He questions the weight of a vow in a world where power usually dictates the rules, keeping his expression unreadable and cold. While the leader brags about unifying the demonic path, Jian cuts through the fluff. He points out that his actual mission was to dismantle the 10 pillars that once controlled the entire demonic way. Jian notes that every single one of those powerful figures has now knelt in submission. The leader can't deny the truth, finally conceding that Jian has indeed fulfilled every brutal requirement set before him. Memory hits as the leader recalls Jian's early days in Black Dragon Valley. Back then, he was just another kid, even trailing behind Xiaowu when it came to raw, unrefined martial arts skill. Everything shifted after Jian returned from the destruction of Guiman Estate. He emerged from the smoke and corpses with a completely different aura, radiating a level of murderous intent that terrified even his allies. The leader stares at Jian, still baffled by that sudden, unimaginable spike in power. He wonders what hell Jian crawled through in that place to transform into the unstoppable monster standing before him now. Jian offers a simple apology for his departure, but the leader dismisses it as nothing but empty words. He slams his cup down, the impact echoing through the silent, high-ceiling chamber of the palace. Surprisingly, the leader tells him to go, acknowledging Jian's hard work. He views their meeting not as a tragedy, but as a destined connection that changed the fate of the entire demonic world. Jian turns his back on the throne, walking away from the life he's known for a decade. The leader watches in silence, promising never to forget the massive contributions his first sword made. With a final word of thanks, Jian steps toward the exit. He moves with a lighter stride, finally shedding the heavy mantle of the cult as he prepares to cross the threshold toward freedom. One of the guards loses his temper at Jian's perceived arrogance and reaches for his blade. Before he can draw, the leader barks an order to stop, letting Jian walk away without further bloodshed. Jian emerges into the cool night air, leaving the fortress behind. The moon hangs high as he walks through the massive gates. Finally a free man after 12 long years of slavery and war. Xiaowu waits outside with a grin, waving Jian over. As they depart, Jian wonders if his family will even recognize the man he's become after being soaked in death for so long. Back to the present, Xiaowu points excitedly toward a massive tree. He's impressed by the scale, asking if this is the giant guardian deity Jian kept talking about during their long journey home. Jian stares up at the towering branches with deep nostalgia. He remembers his parents and the elders holding sacred rituals here, and how he played among the roots as a kid. Touching the bark, Jian realizes he's finally home. Xiaowu laughs at the sentiment, joking that he always pictured his boss was born a stoic, emotionless block of wood. A group of local children suddenly calls out to them. Gian turns around, finding 3 kids staring warily at the 2 strangers standing right by their village's sacred guardian tree. One boy points a finger, warning them not to touch the tree so carelessly. Jian smiles gently, telling the kids he isn't an outsider and knows they're from Peach Blossom Village. The children look stunned by his knowledge. Jian continues, explaining that this tree is their village's deity and that he spent his entire childhood living right here among these very trees. Jian proves his claim by pointing toward the village layout. He describes the small pond to the north and the specific thatched house sitting just to the left of it. Gian beams with pride, but the young girl shouts back at him. She doesn't believe a word he says and accuses the scary-looking duo of being nothing more than liars. Jian looks baffled while the girl claims that house belongs to Adu. She insists Adu has no father or brothers and yells that Jian looks exactly like a common bandit. A boy suggests Jian might be an uncle, but the girl snaps that he's way too ugly for that. Xiaowu fumes while the little brats turn and sprint away. Gion stands frozen, wondering who this Adu person is. While Gion overthinks the name, Cheol-woo ignores the drama and reaches up to pluck a ripe peach from a branch. Cheol-woo bites into the fruit and grins as the sweetness hits him. He finally gets why they call it Peach Blossom Village, clearly enjoying the local snacks more than the greeting. Cheol-woo offers a peach to his boss, but Gion isn't in the mood for fruit. He keeps walking, his mind focused on the house and the confusing reception from the kids. They reach a peaceful landscape where a lone thatched hut sits near the mountains. The sky is clear, and the area looks exactly like the quiet life Gion has always wanted. Standing before the courtyard, Gion is overcome with emotion. The house looks exactly like the one from his dreams, unchanged by the 12 years he spent away in the cult. Cheol-woo asks if they finally arrived. Gion confirms it, but their moment of peace is cut short when a stern voice rings out, demanding to know who was trespassing. Gion turns his head toward the voice. A middle-aged man with a sharp gaze and a goatee stands there, looking ready for a fight as he evaluates the two strangers. A group of angry villagers armed with shovels and rakes surrounds them. The little girl from earlier hides behind the man, having clearly warned the adults about the bandits. The lead man demands to know their business. Gion stands his ground, explaining that this house has been the Sama family home for generations, shocking the villagers with his claim. Gion squints at the man, a memory clicking into place. He excitedly asks if the man is Mr. Jang from the village chief's house, hoping for a bit of recognition. Gion lunges and grabs the man's hands. The villager stares, confused, until Gion identifies himself as the boy who once lived in this house. The man's eyes bulge in pure shock. He struggles to believe this imposing man is the same little kid from his memories, the missing Sama Gion. Gion proves it by pulling back his hair to show a hidden scar. He mentions a childhood fight where a kid named Wook hit him with a rock. The old man breaks down, wailing as he pulls Gion into a massive hug. He finally recognizes the rascal who's been gone for 12 long years. He sobs, asking what happened during his long absence. Gion looks away, his face turning grim as he thinks back to the violence he endured. Night settles over the peaceful village as they sit for tea. The man asks if Gion is truly the boy who vanished following that merchant escort. Gion sits tall, recalling how the man warned him that working as a porter was too dangerous. He survived what everyone thought was a death sentence. The villager admits he assumed Gion died on the job. He leans in, desperate to know how the young boy lived through all this time. Gion's mind flashes back to a brutal, blood-red battlefield. Bodies and wreckage cover the plains as the sun sets on a scene of total massacre. A powerful warrior vomits blood, completely defeated. Gion stands amidst the smoke, his blade unsheathed and his presence cold, lethal, and absolute. The enemy is the Northern Sky Sword Demon, a legendary pillar. He mocks the cult's arrogance even as he struggles to breathe through the gore. The demon admits the terrifying rumors were true. Gion's single unit wiped out almost every major powerhouse on the demonic path without any help. He laughs maniacally, claiming that killing Gion is his final chance at freedom. The demon prepares one last, desperate strike to save his life. He lunges with everything he has left. Their swords clash with a massive explosion of force that lights up the twilight and shatters the ground. Gion cuts through the defense with a whirlwind of slashes. The impact of the counterattack sends the legendary demon soaring backward through the air. The demon crashes into the dirt, coughing and broken. The dust settles around his shattered body as his legendary strength fails him completely. He acknowledges Gion's overwhelming power before his head slumps. The last pillar falls, leaving Gion as the undisputed strongest warrior in the world. Gion sighs. The long war finally finished. He stands alone against the massive sun, the true #1 blade of the demonic path. Returning to the present, Gion sets his cup down calmly. He spins a simple story about being sold to mercenaries and wandering from place to place. Gion finally asks the question he came for. The man delivers the news that his siblings left for Sohung, leaving their old life behind. Gion learns his family moved to Sohung 6 years ago. They struggled to keep the old house after his disappearance, but eventually lost the battle. Gion takes in the heavy reality of their long-standing hardship. Bright skies clear over a quiet village path. Gion and Cheol-woo trek toward the outskirts, finally reaching the humble cluster of homes where the family settled. It's a peaceful but clearly impoverished area. The atmosphere turns cold as a villager reveals Gion's mother passed away last year. The news hits him like a physical blow, his face hardening as the crushing weight of lost time sets in. Under a gray, misty mountain peak, Gion isolates himself. He sits alone on a jagged cliff edge, the silent, desolate landscape mirroring the sudden emptiness growing in his chest. The stoic warrior finally snaps, wailing in absolute agony. He screams into the sky, crushed by the guilt of his unpardonable sin leaving his mother to die while he was trapped in the cult. Memories of a faceless, happy family haunt his mind. Gion collapses into a deep bow on the dirt, consumed by the lack of filial piety he showed by staying away for 12 long years. They eventually arrive in Sohung, finding the specific shack. The building is small and crumbling, tucked away from the main town. It is a far cry from a proper, comfortable home. Jian stares at the dilapidated walls, his heart sinking for his siblings. Cheol-woo ruins the somber mood, laughing and asking if the legendary boss is actually scared to knock on a door. Cheol-woo recalls how Jian used to stroll through blood-soaked enemy camps like a walk in the park. He pushes his boss, telling him to just man up and throw the door open. Jian wonders how he can even show his face after they suffered so much. Cheol-woo promises they'll just earn money for a mansion. Jian finds a small spark of resolve. He vows to never let them be separated again. His hand trembles as he reaches for the wood. Suddenly, a soft voice from outside asks who is knocking, making him freeze mid-motion. A young woman stands in the entrance, behind them. Jian and Cheol-woo tower over her, the tension in the air turning thick and heavy. Her face is revealed for the first time. Jin has grown into a striking woman, though her complexion remains unnaturally pale, and her expression is filled with deep, guarded caution. Jian's eyes widen in instant recognition. He flashes back to the days he carried a tiny, laughing Jin on his shoulders. Realizing the little girl he loved is finally standing before him, Cheol-woo loses his cool, shouting about how insanely pretty she is. Jin flinches, looking absolutely terrified by the massive scarred man yelling at her on her own doorstep. Jian shuts his subordinate up with a lightning-fast punch to the jaw. Ignoring the bleeding giant, he steps forward and softly calls her name, hoping she still remembers his face. Jin looks confused, asking how a stranger knows her name. Jian can't help himself. He grabs her hands, overcome with emotion at how much his little sister has managed to grow. The moment of warmth vanishes. As Jian holds her, his martial senses flare. He looks down at their joined hands, sensing something deeply and dangerously wrong beneath her skin. He realizes her body is overflowing with freezing yin energy. It's a slow-acting death sentence. Jin panics at his intense, scary gaze and screams for the strange man to let her go. Jin trips and falls hard into the dirt, whimpering in pain. Jian reaches out to help, but a furious voice cuts through the air, calling them bastards and demanding they back off. Guangko charges in like a loose cannon, screaming at the intruders for invading his turf. Gion and Cheol-woo stand there looking entirely unbothered as the kid makes his aggressive entrance. Jin screams for her second brother as Guangko leaps into the air with a flying punch. He aims straight for Jian's head, furious that anyone would dare lay a hand on his sister. Jian easily sidesteps the strike, realizing this wild kid is actually his little brother, Ho. Guangho lands and proudly declares himself a member of the One Heart Society, ready for round 2. Guangho lunges again with high-speed strikes, accusing Gion of being a cowardly member of the Blood Axe gang. Gion just dances around the kid's clumsy but energetic moves without breaking a sweat. Ho keeps swinging wildly, but Gion avoids every hit with minimal effort. He feels a wave of nostalgia, observing how much his bright, mischievous siblings have grown while he was away in the cult. Things get spicy when Guangho pulls out a dagger, convinced Jian is just toying with him. He threatens to end Jian's life right then and there, his face twisted in pure rage. Jian hears a mention of his mother's death anniversary and spots his middle brother, Hyun, rushing over. Hyun steps in to stop the madness, grabbing Guangko's arm before blood is spilled. Hyun tears into Guangko for being a reckless idiot and pulling a blade without knowing the situation. Gian watches the sibling rivalry with a proud smile, happy to see his brothers are alive. Jian takes a quiet moment to thank the gods they are safe. But Guangko sees the distraction as an opening. The kid lunges with his dagger again, aiming a lethal strike at Jian. Suddenly, a massive, muscular hand snatches the blade right out of the air. The impact shatters the steel, stopping the attack dead in its tracks with a display of overwhelming physical power. Cheol-woo is the one holding the sharp end, looking totally bored by the attempt. Guangko's face drops into pure shock as his supposedly lethal strike is neutralized by literal bare skin. Guangko stammers that the big guy is like a ghost, but Cheol-woo just flexes his massive arms. He proudly boasts about being the great Vajra Yaksa, looking every bit like a monster. Guangko quickly recovers his attitude, accusing the giant of being a desperate thief trying to rob their shack. This hits Cheol-woo's pride hard, and he starts yelling about his definitely not a thief aesthetic. Jian finally tries to reveal his identity to his stunned siblings, but the air remains thick with suspicion. Even Cheol-woo senses the awkward tension and tries to interject before a full reunion. The mood shifts instantly as Jian senses pick up a new, hostile presence nearby. Guangko spots real trouble approaching from the distance and mutters the name of the actual Blood Axe gang. A whole squad of actual thugs marches into the clearing looking for a fight and a reason to cause trouble. Jian and Cheol-woo naturally step up to shield the siblings from the threat. These new guys look like bottom-tier villains who have never shown their faces around the village before. The family stands their ground, though the siblings are clearly outmatched by the sheer numbers. One particularly ugly thug decides to test his luck by grabbing Gion's collar and pulling him close. He starts barking questions, completely unaware that he is touching the most dangerous man alive. The thug starts mocking Chel Wu for his size while Guanko screams that this is One Heart Society territory. The kid is brave, but these gangsters clearly don't care about local rules. Gion's eyes go cold as he realizes these are the punks Glunho was worried about. The thug continues to act tough, claiming the village belongs to them now while taunting the former demonic sword. Guanko screams at the duo, thinking they're just more mocking monsters. Meanwhile, the ugly thug leader talks about peaceful cooperation while Gion prepares to move. Things are about to get very messy for these guys. The boss barely finishes his sentence before Gion strikes. It's a blur of speed as the thug's head gets separated from his body in a fountain of gore. Gion doesn't even look like he's trying. Blood paints the sky as the boss drops. The rest of the gang freezes, their faces twisting into pure terror. They've never seen a human move like that, and the vibe just shifted completely. Yan calmly tells Cheol Wu to take out the trash. The thugs snap out of their shock, screaming in confusion before their temporary leader loses it and orders a full-blown suicide charge. Cheol Wu grins, loving every second of this. He acknowledges his boss and turns to face the incoming mob. The thugs lunge with everything they've got, but they're just walking into a meat grinder. Cheol Wu becomes a wrecking ball. He delivers bone-shattering punches that send bodies spinning through the air. These guys aren't even a warm-up for someone who mastered the Vajra indestructible body. He keeps the momentum going, slamming thugs into the dirt until only dust remains. As the smoke clears, he stands over the heap, unimpressed and calling them nothing but weaklings. Cheol Wu scratches his head, wondering if he overdid the violence. Behind him, the three siblings stand paralyzed. They can't believe these terrifying thugs were wiped out like bugs in a single heartbeat. Cheol Wu asks if they finally believe they aren't bandits. Gion steps forward and speaks the names of the brothers and sister he hasn't seen in over a decade. The tension is thick. Gion reveals the distinctive scar on his forehead. Hyun's eyes go wide as the realization hits him like a lightning bolt. He finally recognizes the man standing in front of him as his brother. Gion gives a soft smile and confirms he's home. Hyun doesn't hesitate, diving into a tearful hug. Gion holds him, apologizing for the 12 long years he spent away in the cult. Guango and Jin watch the reunion in shock, while Gion promises to explain his long story later. Nearby, Cheol Wu is already cackling, clearly enjoying the drama and the kids' feisty attitudes. Everyone gathers around the table for a meal. Cheol Wu starts bragging about their past glory, prompting a confused Hyun to ask why this giant man calls their big brother boss. Gion tells them to drop it, but Cheol Wu can't help teasing him. He explains how Gion absolutely crushed him years ago and saved his life, earning his eternal, albeit annoying, loyalty. As Jin cooks, Gion asks for updates on their lives. Hyun reveals he's been working as a porter for the Juai escort agency. Following in the very footsteps that led to Gion's disappearance, Gion is visibly unsettled by the news. Jin adds that she's also learning the ropes at the agency. It seems the family is still tied to the dangerous world of escorting. Gion notes that their mother must have hated that career choice. Hyun confirms she was deeply against it, his expression turning solemn as they think about their mother's worries. Hyun points out the obvious. Gion went missing while doing that exact job. Guanho gets bitter, snapping that it was Gion's own fault for volunteering for such a dangerous gig back then. The brothers start bickering instantly. Hyun calls out Guanko for joining a gang, while Guanko argues that at least he brings home the big bucks without hurting anyone, mostly. Jin finally loses her temper and slams a dish onto the table. She screams at them to shut up, reminding them Gion just got back and shouldn't be greeted with constant fighting. Jin suddenly coughs up blood, staining her hand and shocking everyone at the table. Gion springs into action, catching his sister as she collapses while his brothers watch in a state of pure frozen panic. Gion immediately senses her internal state and realizes her yin energy is dangerously haywire. Guangho is stunned, wondering how his long-lost brother could possibly diagnose a complex energetic imbalance just by touching her. Gion demands to know if she's seen a professional. Hyun looks defeated, explaining that they sought out every famous physician in the region, but nobody could figure out what was actually killing her. Hyun mentions that only one doctor's diagnosis matched Gion's observations about her icy limbs and pale skin. Jin tries to act tough, claiming she's fine, but the physical toll of the energy imbalance is obvious. Jin excuses herself to rest, leaving a heavy silence behind. The brothers sit in the gloom of their cramped shack, the joy of Gion's return quickly overshadowed by the grim reality of their sister's failing health. Hyun explains the family only relocated to Sohol to be near a specific specialist. Guanko adds that Jin is only alive because of expensive medicine designed to artificially boost her yang energy. Gion asks about a permanent cure. but Hyun admits he only knows how to manage the symptoms. The treatment costs a fortune, far exceeding what a lowly porter like Hyun could ever earn on his own. Hyun breaks down, confessing they'd be helpless without the cash Gwang-ho brings home. He feels like a failure, losing the right to scold his younger brother for joining a gang just to keep their sister breathing. Jian places a steadying hand on Hyun's shoulder as the younger man weeps. Gwang-ho looks on, while Cheol-woo stays quiet at the table, observing the deep bonds and desperation driving this broken family. Jian takes the blame, apologizing for being absent for 10 years while his brothers suffered. He humbles himself, stating he has the least right to judge anyone's path after leaving them alone for so long. Jian tells them to stop worrying about the money and promises to take Jin to the doctor tomorrow. Hyun feels a surge of relief and thanks his brother before heading off to get some much-needed sleep. As the brothers leave, Jian's face turns stony and serious. Cheol-woo remains seated, noticing the shift in his boss's aura as the former First Sword focuses entirely on the mission to save his sister. Cheol-woo pours a drink, casually suggesting they should have kept some of the bandit treasure. Jian sips his tea with a cold gaze, immediately shutting down any talk of using stolen loot for their family. Gion insists the money belongs to the victims and the families of the deceased. Cheol-woo relents, acknowledging the boss previously ordered them to leave the blood-soaked treasure alone out of respect for the dead. Cheol-woo reminds him they have other valuable items from the temple to sell for legitimate funds. He admits he didn't want to touch the bandits' blood money anyway, respecting Gion's strict moral code. Cheol-woo asks for a real assessment of Jin's condition. Jian admits he isn't a doctor, but he clearly sees that the natural balance of her body is totally shattered by a massive influx of yin. Cheol-woo suggests Jian just uses top-tier internal power to pump yang energy into her. Jian reveals he already tried that simple fix, but his formidable energy had absolutely no effect on her condition. Jian explains he couldn't even locate a pathway to flow his energy into her system. His expression darkens as he delivers the final brutal truth: if they don't find a real cure, Jin will die. The next morning, the entire group arrives at the Chongsim clinic. Gian and his brothers stand before the sign, pinning all their hopes on the little demonic doctor to perform a miracle for Jin. They find a massive line of patients already stretching out the door. Gian realizes they are late, but the crowd only proves that the doctor they've come to see is as skilled as the rumors claimed. Guanghua leads the crew toward the Cheongsim clinic, boasting about its local fame. Qian, Cheol-woo, and the siblings stand before the gates, ready to find a real solution for Jin's worsening condition. Guangho greets a group of thugs who bow with surprising respect. Hyun explains these guys belong to the One Heart Society, professional extortionists who claim they're maintaining public order while shaking down businesses. Jian watches the thugs bow low, confused by their submissive behavior. Cheol-woo asks about these so-called pillars of society, but Hyun scoffs, dismissing them as nothing more than common, low-level grunts. Cheol-woo laughs it off, noting that everyone has to start somewhere. Guanho cuts the chatter short and urges the group to stop talking and finally head inside the clinic to help Jin. Cheol-woo finds Guanwo reliable and follows Gan through the gates. They find the clinic courtyard buzzing with activity, packed with patients and busy medical staff scurrying around the massive, well-organized facility. Jian scans the crowd, impressed by the scale of the operation. Hyun mentions the clinic grew from a tiny room to this massive complex in just a few years, entirely due to the doctor's skill. Jian repeats the title Little Demonic Doctor, wondering about the man's reputation. Cheol-woo observes the professional atmosphere and grins, noting that the guy clearly isn't a quack given the massive patient turnout. Jian realizes even a doctor this famous hasn't cured Jin yet. Guanho spots a medical assistant and shouts a greeting, surprising the workers since they arrived well before their next scheduled appointment. Guango explains that circumstances changed and pushes for a meeting. The assistant leads them inside the main building, where long rows of patients wait desperately for their turn to see the master physician. The group enters a private room as the little demonic doctor, Kwang Jung, steps inside. He looks surprised and immediately worries that Jin's condition took a turn for the worse since their last visit. Kwang Jung approaches Jin with concern, but Guangko quickly clarifies that she is stable. He explains that Jun simply insisted on seeing the doctor personally as soon as he returned home. Jian sizes up Huan Sheng, noting his frugal and honest impression. He introduces himself as the eldest brother, catching the doctor off guard since he never knew Jin had any other family members. Jian and Cheol-woo immediately sense a hidden depth to the man. Jian realizes the doctor is actually a skilled martial artist, a sentiment Cheol-woo confirms with a silent, knowing look. Jian explains his long absence in a foreign land and his desperation to help his sister. Kwang Jung welcomes him warmly, but stays humble, downplaying his role in Jin's ongoing struggle for survival. The room goes silent as Huang Zhang takes Jin's pulse. Jian and the brothers watch every movement with intense focus. the weight of the moment hanging heavy over the small exam room. Huang Zheng's expression turns somber as he admits Jin's illness stays on his mind. He reflects on his own abilities, claiming they feel insignificant when he cannot provide a permanent cure for her. Hyun and Guangho protest his modesty, crediting him for Jin still being alive. Huang Zheng sighs, admitting he has only stalled the inevitable progression to prevent a worst-case scenario for her life. Jian suggests that using higher-grade medicinal herbs might change the outcome. Hong Jung agrees, admitting that superior ingredients would be far more effective than the standard treatments they have used so far. Jian asks for a specific name to track down. Wing Jiong explains they need herbs with powerful yang energy to neutralize the yin influx, specifically identifying the fire spirit herb as the core. Huang Zheng mentions the millennium version, or Gongsheng stalactite milk, would be the ultimate cure. However, he warns that these legendary items are nearly impossible to find and carry an astronomical price tag. Jian asks if the clinic stocks the elixir. Huang Zhong scoffs at the idea. He explains such a rare spiritual treasure is way too dangerous to keep just lying around a local medical center. The group stays tense while Jian demands a location. Huang Zhong drops the name of the Water Dragon Merchant Guild. He knows they have exactly what Jin needs to survive her condition. Hyun recognizes the guild as a massive powerhouse in Hangzhou. Huang Zhong recalls his trip there to treat the guild leader's son for malaria, noting how influential and wealthy the organization truly is. The doctor remembers the guild leader revealing the treasure during that visit. Jian wonders if the medicine actually got used back then, hoping there is still some left for his sister's treatment. Huang Zhong laughs at the thought of wasting such a divine item on simple malaria. He mentions the guild leader only brought it up as a joke while they discussed potential treatment options. Jian stays focused and asks for the price tag. The doctor reveals the guild leader mentioned a staggering 300 gold taels. It is a fortune that stops the room cold with pure shock. Hyun and Guangho lose their minds over the astronomical cost. Jin looks away, clearly heartbroken and overwhelmed. She hates knowing her life depends on a sum of money her family cannot afford. Hyun calculates that 1 gold tael covers half a year of meds. Keol Woo wonders if they can buy it on credit, but Jian's deadpan stare makes it clear that is not happening. Cheol Woo realizes their current stash won't cover the bill. He suddenly remembers a specific item they could sell. Jian and Guanho watch him with total confusion as he prepares his big reveal. Jian warns his subordinate to drop the nonsense. Cheol Woo ignores him and brags about an item he snagged while doing mercenary work at Mount Mandok. He has been sitting on a literal gold mine. He produces a massive, glowing green orb that lights up the room. He claims it was appraised at 400 taels. The younger brothers look like they have seen a ghost. Jin finally smiles through her tears. Jian places a reassuring hand on her shoulder and bows to save her. The hope in the room is palpable as the goal suddenly feels reachable. Jian tells the doctor to arrange the deal immediately. Huang Zhong looks impressed and agrees to reach out to the guild. They have the money, so now they just need the goods. The scene shifts to the massive headquarters of the Water Dragon Merchant Guild. It is a sprawling complex that practically screams wealth and power. Jian and Shouwu arrive ready to work. Inside the fancy office, the guild leader sits behind her desk. She is a wealthy, imposing woman who does not look friendly. She drops a bombshell by flatly refusing to sell the elixir. Jian stares her down, totally baffled by the rejection. The guild leader repeats herself with zero hesitation. She has no interest in selling the Gongcheng stalactite milk to a group of strangers. She flashes a gold tooth in a smug grin. Jian does not blink and demands an explanation. He came with the cash, so he expects a reason for the deal dying. Jian watches her closely as she inspects their payment. She tosses the green orb around and claims the price is still insufficient. She moves the goalposts right in front of his face. Dion asks if she doubts the pearl's authenticity. She admits it is a high-quality night luminous pearl, which makes her refusal even weirder. She knows it is valuable, but plays a different game. The guild leader leans in with a cold expression. She admits the 300 tael price tag she told the doctor was just a joke. She never actually intended to sell. The greedy guild leader leans back, questioning if Jian knows why she brought out the treasure. Jian stares back coldly, noting she used it for her son's chronic malaria. She confirms it was a desperate, necessary move. Cheol Woo stays silent as the guild leader explains that the stalactite milk is a legendary miracle cure. She warns that owning such a rare treasure makes the guild a massive target for every predator in the land. She reveals her plan to keep it a secret for the guild's elite. The glowing green orb sits in its box while she admits the doctor swore an oath of secrecy. Jian and Shou Wu exchange a flat look. Jian's eyes narrow with intense focus. The guild leader speculates that the doctor must have slipped up because he was looking for a way to save a critical patient, and she quickly realizes who that patient is. She admits to having a sharp eye for profit. Since the secret is out, she claims she has to dispose of the item before targets arrive. But she won't give away such a precious elixir for cheap. Flashing a greedy gold-toothed grin, she sets the price at a staggering 500 taels. Cheol Wu's eyes nearly pop out in shock, while Jian remains stoically silent, absorbing the blatant and calculated extortion. The leader handles a separate luminous pearl, noting its high grade but small. She ruthlessly devalues their payment, claiming it's hard to get even 400 taels for it, and only if they find the right buyer. Jian watches her lowball them, his expression hardening. She claims the pearl is worth 300 at best, then tacks on extra fees for the breach of confidentiality and the surge in demand, totaling 500. Cheol Wu looks like he's about to explode, screaming internally about this scammer old lady. He considers blowing up the entire guild right there, because there is a serious limit to this level of merchant bullshit. Jian shuts down Cheol Wu's violent impulses, asking how much cash they actually have. Looking at the desk, Jian notes they only brought about 120 taels when they left their previous hideout. Jian suggests keeping some for living expenses and offering 100 taels instead. He turns the tables, asking the guild leader what kind of people she thinks they are if she's really such a good judge. The leader notes the dignity of a man who has waded through carnage. Jian doesn't deny it, stating they walked the demonic path not by choice, causing her to freeze up as the heavy realization hits. He admits they've killed countless people. Jian explains the simple promise he made to himself after escaping that life, to leave the blood behind and live an ordinary life with his siblings. His gaze sharp, the guild leader stares into Jian's cold, dangerous eyes. He tells her plainly that since his family is dying, he can't afford the luxury of that peaceful promise anymore, leaving her to guess his next move. Sensing the genuine threat from his past, she realizes he isn't lying about his lethal history. She pivots immediately, calling the deal a favor from the guild, but demands he helps with a request later. Jian accepts the terms with a simple nod. Outside, the sun begins to set over the forest as the heavy atmosphere of the guild meeting lingers in the air. The deal for the medicine finally secured. The duo sets up a campfire in the woods. Cheol Wu aggressively carves at a piece of wood, still fuming over the encounter and swearing he'd have smashed that lady's head open if Jian hadn't intervened. Cheol Wu rants about the money, but Jian reminds him they're saving their youngest sibling's life, so the source doesn't matter. Jian apologizes, acknowledging the money actually belonged to both of them as partners. Cheol Wu admits he was just annoyed at being ripped off while they were in a desperate spot. He seriously contemplates going back to steal the item now, but Jian shoots down the reckless, bloody idea. Cheol Wu settles down, realizing Jian is right about not staining the medicine with blood. Jian picks up firewood, reflecting on their dark past and the fact that they weren't exactly clean either despite being kidnapped. Jian stares into the flickering campfire, admitting their hands are stained with blood. He recalls the countless factions crushed to unify the demonic path. He tosses wood into the flames, burdened by his violent history. He insists they discard their old ways to blend into the mundane world. Muram rules don't belong here. He sits across from Cheol Wu, the firelight dancing in his cold, observant eyes as they talk. Jian plans to use the money for Jin's medicine and a fresh start. He wants to lead his family properly now. He views his quiet life as a minimal atonement for their late mother's sake. Jian tells Cheol Wu he can leave whenever he wants, but the big guy just keeps drinking. Cheol Wu refuses to go, remembering their fallen squad mates and the heavy sacrifices made to win their freedom. Cheol Wu apologizes for getting heated as the past bubbles up. He brings up the stalactite milk Jian gave him back at the Guiman estate, feeling guilty that they're struggling for money now because of it. Jian dismisses the regret, noting the small dose barely covered Cheol Wu's massive frame anyway. Cheol Wu laughs, creditting that specific medicine for completing his indestructible body. The two share a rare, quiet moment together. Suddenly, Cheol Wu's smile vanishes as he hears suspicious movements. He catches the sharp scent of blood drifting through the trees. He realizes a group of scumbags is closing in on their campfire under the moonlight. Thunderous hoofbeats shake the earth as a cavalry unit emerges from the dark. Jian grabs his things, sensing the incoming trouble. He remains remarkably calm, deciding they will deal with the threat once it reveals itself. Dust clouds erupt as dozens of horsemen swarm the clearing, completely surrounding the duo. The fire flickers as the massive group closes off every exit. These men are heavily armed and clearly looking for blood. The riders halt, and armed thugs leap from their saddles. They look like seasoned killers, eyes locked onto Jian and Cheol Wu. They draw their blades with lethal intent, their faces twisted with greedy anticipation. Jian sighs, realizing a peaceful night is out of the question. He stands tall beside Cheol Wu, looking more bored than threatened. The bandits think they have the advantage, unaware of who they are facing. The bandits seem baffled that the duo outpaced them earlier. They draw their curved swords with a sharp metallic ring. The forest clearing becomes a trap as the gang tightens their circle around the two men. Jian questions their persistent pursuit. A creepy bandit with a jagged grin suggests hacking off their legs to stop them from running. The thugs laugh amongst themselves, already anticipating a quick and one-sided slaughter. A scarred leader on horseback demands they hand over their treasure immediately. He offers a comfortable death in exchange for the item. If they refuse, he promises a descent into a hellish world of pain. Xiao Wu looks genuinely confused and asks about this supposed item. The leader points his blade, specifying the treasure they took from the Water Dragon Merchant Guild. The guild leader's betrayal is now painfully obvious. Jian recalls the fat guild leader's face, realizing the secret transaction was a complete lie. He tells the gang to get lost. He is tired of seeing blood and offers them one chance to walk away. The leader sneers, confirming they tracked them specifically for the stalactite mill. His men mock the duo, joking that their big brother was worried the greedy old guild leader might have kept the treasure for himself. They ordered Jian and Xiao Wu to die gracefully. One thug calls Xiao Wu a big bear bastard and mocks his rugged appearance. Xiao Wu finds the comment funny and asks exactly who these people are. The bandits claim the duo's lives are over, so names shouldn't matter. Still, one goon decides that satisfying curiosity before death is the way of a hero. Jian watches them with a cold, predatory smile. The bandits demand silence and introduce themselves as the Heavenly Killer Gang of Hangzhou. They boast about ruling the nights, completely unaware they are threatening the former first sword of the demonic path himself. The gang leader offers a quick death or a painful one, but Xiao Wu just picks his ear. He looks completely unimpressed and tells the guy to just drop dead already. Stunned by the disrespect, the leader's face twists in pure rage. He can't believe a lowly porter is mocking him. He screams for his boys to handle this arrogant, trashy brat. The leader's eyes glow with murderous intent as he orders his gang to show them hell. Dozens of armed bandits close the circle, blades drawn and ready for what they think is a slaughter. Xiao Wu asks if they really have to play nice at the cost of their lives. Jian sighs, looking disappointed. He gave them a warning, but clearly, these idiots aren't interested in living. Xiao Wu cracks his knuckles, smelling the blood on these thugs. The leader loses it, pointing his sword and ordering his men to gouge out Jian's eyes and rip out his tongue. As the gang lunges, Xiao Wu welcomes the fight, but then, three mysterious figures emerge from the shadows. The atmosphere shifts instantly as everyone notices the new players joining the party. Xiao Wu stops mid-motion, squinting at the newcomers. Jian looks over, wondering why his subordinate is hesitating. They both realize these aren't your typical forest travelers walking into a bandit ambush. Three figures step into the light, led by a composed woman named Huang Yong. The trio looks way too calm for a forest full of killers, walking with effortless, high-status authority. Jian and Xiao Wu watch the group approach with confusion. Xiao Wu wonders what these things are even doing here. The bandits are equally baffled by the sudden, well-dressed interruption. Huang Yang looks at Jian and Xiao Wu, assuming they're just pitiful merchants getting rolled. She keeps it classy and asks if they need a hand with their little bandit problem. Jian stares, amazed. A total stranger is offering help in the middle of a forest. Wang Yang identifies the thugs as Hangzhou underworld trash, not bothered by their numbers at all. Xiao Wu whispers that these newcomers are actually legit masters. Jian agrees but notes that the woman is the real powerhouse. He wonders if he should just let her handle the dirty work. Jian asks if she's actually capable of helping. Meanwhile, the bandits realize they're being ignored and start surrounding the new trio, shifting their focus to the more dangerous-looking group. The guards ask Huang Yang for orders as the bandits show their blades. She finds their arrogance insulting. She gives the gang one last chance to back down before things get bloody. The leader suspects they're high-status escorts, but greed for the stalactite milk wins. He's done talking. He screams at his boys to kill every single person standing in the clearing. Bandits dive at the guard in the straw hat. He doesn't even flinch. He calls them vermin while gripping his hilt, preparing to end this fight before the thugs even get close. In a flash of cold steel, the guard unleashes a devastating strike. A massive wave of energy tears through the bandits, turning the charging thugs into a mess of blood and broken screams. The guard calmly sheaths his blade as the dust settles. Bodies litter the ground, silenced in a single heartbeat. The overwhelming power gap leaves the remaining bandits frozen in pure icy terror. The guard smirks, covered in a few blood splatters. One dying bandit gasps out a warning to his boss, finally realizing they just tried to rob a group of absolute top-tier monsters. Xiao Wu is actually impressed by the display, admitting it wasn't bad. Jian remains unfazed. The gang leader realizes he's messed up big time, sweating bullets as his entire gang falls apart. A bandit leaps from his horse with a desperate scream, but the straw hat guard intercepts him midair. A flash of steel cuts through the air, parrying the strike with effortless, cold precision. The guard lands calmly, telling the bandit leader he chose death by ignoring the young lady's mercy. The atmosphere turns heavy as the guard reveals he actually finds this violent mess quite interesting. The bandit leader lunges again in a fit of rage, but the guard remains a wall of steel. He meets the charge with a powerful counter, parrying the blade aside to expose his target. The bandit screams as the guard delivers a decisive, crushing blow. A massive shockwave erupts from the impact, slicing through the air and ending the struggle in a single, brutal moment of silence. The leader faceplants into the dirt, coughing up blood as his body gives out. Behind him, the guard stands unfazed, while the forest floor is painted with the crimson evidence of the short-lived fight. The guard reunites with his team and his companion mocks him for taking so long. He just smirks back, asking if the loudmouth leader was even worth the effort of drawing steel. He reports that the leader had some spirit, but the rest of the gang dropped their weapons once the bodies hit the ground. Wang Yang orders them to leave the survivors alive. Jian offers a polite martial salute, thanking the group for the assist. Wang Yang remains composed and professional, stating it was only natural for them to help travelers in need during the night. Jian explains they have a matter of extreme urgency and must leave immediately. Wang Yang waves them off, promising that her crew will handle the prisoners and the bloody mess themselves. Jian formally introduces himself as Sama Jian and promises to repay the debt one day. Qiao Wu finds the speech incredibly cringy, earning a sharp command to shut up from his boss. The guards think the duo is strange and rude for leaving so abruptly. Wang Yang watches them go, assuming the two men were simply too terrified by the carnage to stay any longer. Suddenly, Wang Yang's eyes widen as a sharp realization hits her. Her guards notice her sudden change in expression and ask their lady what has caused her such visible shock and confusion. She realizes she was completely wrong about them being afraid. She watches their retreating backs, noting that neither man showed even a single hint of fear or agitation during the entire bloody encounter. She looks back at the pile of bleeding bodies, realizing the duo's attitude was chilling. They didn't act like victims. They watched the slaughter like bored spectators casually watching a theater performance. The scene shifts to the Kingdom House, the local clinic run by the little demonic doctor. Jian steps inside the quiet, medicine-filled room, finally away from the chaos of the mountain path. The door swings open as Huang Zheng rushes in, looking frantic and disheveled. He immediately asks Jian if he actually managed to obtain the rare medicine required for his sister's critical treatment. Jian confirms the success, pulling the bag out safely as the doctor sighs in relief. Huang Zhang expresses deep shame for not accompanying him, but Jian dismisses the apology, focusing on the goal. Qian Zheng mentions he already sent someone to fetch Gayan's youngest brother, Guanho. Gayan looks pleased, glad that his family will finally be together to see the medicine put to good use. The doctor wonders if they were being too selfish by letting Guion face the danger alone. Guion reflects on the saviors from the woods, realizing they were likely far more than simple travelers. Jian apologizes for rushing the treatment, but the doctor clarifies time isn't the issue. He explains that things got complicated because unexpected guests from his main family arrived at the clinic earlier. Jian connects the dots, asking about the main branch of the House of Immortal Healers. The doctor stares back, the weight of the legendary name hanging heavily in the quiet room. This prestigious family is rumored to be capable of reviving the dead. Guion's eyes widen in genuine shock, realizing he has been consulting medical royalty for his sister's condition all along. Jian praises the doctor's incredible skill, but Huang Zhang remains humble. He admits he has only been struggling to keep the condition stable rather than actually providing a permanent cure for the illness. He pours tea, explaining he consulted the main branch because the case is so unique. The good news finally drops. A high-ranking physician from the main family has officially arrived in the region. Rampant plagues kept the experts busy for years, but a master physician stopped by on his way to Hangzhou. He promised to return after his business to personally examine Jian's brother's condition. Jian is overwhelmed, thanking the doctor with an intense bow. Huang Zheng just waves it off with a smile, insisting he is simply doing his duty as a physician to help those in need. The expert's return schedule remains a bit vague, but Jian doesn't mind the uncertainty. He's willing to wait months if it means a real cure is finally within their grasp for his family. Jian catches a flicker of hesitation on the doctor's face. His expression sharpens as he asks if there is some kind of hidden problem or a catch the doctor isn't mentioning yet. The doctor waves it off, promising to stay in touch. Internally, he's sweating because medical certainty is a lie, and he can't bring himself to ruin Jian's rare moment of pure happiness. Outside, the scenery is finally peaceful. Smoke drifts lazily from the chimney of their humble home as the sun shines down on the family gathering together for a quiet, normal afternoon. Inside, Jian brings out the dishes while Hyun helps set the table. Jian watches his siblings move around, finally getting a real taste of the ordinary life he craved for 10 years. Jian asks about the next escort job. Hyun mentions he's heading to Wuxi soon. Jian notes it's a long haul, located quite a ways north from their current position in Hangzhou. Hyun shrugs it off, estimating a 15-day round trip if things stay quiet. He scoops rice casually, acting like traveling through dangerous, bandit-filled territory is just a standard part of his day. Jian's vibe shifts into protective brother mode. He stares at Yan, asking if he really intends to stay a porter forever, knowing exactly how lethal and soul-crushing that specific trade can be. He reminds Yan he spent 12 hellish years in that trade. Yan pushes back, arguing he's been doing fine for 5 years and the pay is better than any other agency around. Jian claims he has enough cash saved for Yan to quit for good. Yan looks confused, having heard from the grapevine that Jian blew the entire stash on expensive medicine for Jin. Jian's eyes glow with a threatening light as he glares at his subordinate. Chiol Wu flinches and sweats, realizing he accidentally leaked Jian's private financial business to the rest of the family. Yan tells Jian to lay off Chiol Wu. Yan suggests they could just buy some land and settle down, but Yan immediately shuts it down, asking if Jian has ever even farmed. They quickly realize none of them are cut out for the fields or the market. Guanko and Shihol Wu chime in, suggesting they start a business using Guanko's connections in the society. Kiol Wu brags about having serious pull, but Jian isn't buying the hype. Hyun ends the debate, telling everyone to stop rushing and focus on dinner and their brother's upcoming medical treatment. Jian doubts returning to the escort life. Hyun offers him a spot at his agency, noting Chul Wu's massive frame would make him an instant hire as a high-tier escort warrior instead of a simple porter. Jin observes the tension while Hyun suggests Jian take his time. Jian admits he was rushing but insists Hyun gives quitting the dangerous porter trade some serious thought as well for his own safety. Hyun gives a soft smile and agrees to think about it. Satisfied, Jian ends the debate so they can finally eat. The sun sets over the quiet mountains as the family meal continues into the night. The next day, the sun blazes over a bustling town square. People crowd the streets, horses pass through, and the local market hums with the typical chaotic energy of a busy trade city full of life. Chiol Wu wipes his brow, complaining about the heat. He asks Jian for a break, and the former first sword agrees they've done enough wandering for now. Without finding a single decent job in town, they head toward a food stall for dumplings. Chiol Wu tries to order alcohol with their pork dumplings, but the vendor shoots him down, explaining they don't serve any booze at this specific outdoor stall. Chiol Wu grumbles but settles for just the food. He asks what the actual plan is, noting that no matter how hard they look, there's zero honest work available for guys with their violent backgrounds. Jian stares at the table, admitting finding a normal job is tough after living by the sword. Chiol Wu asks if he's serious about starting a business through a favor from their youngest brother. Chiol Wu thinks Guango would love acting like a big shot, but Jian refuses. He plans to pull his brother out of the gang life soon and mocks Chiol Wu's inability to be civil with customers. Chiol Wu laughs, realizing he probably punched the customers anyway. The vendor arrives with a steaming tray of dumplings, and they decide to fill their stomachs before worrying about the uncertain future again after lunch. The dumplings look perfect, glistening with steam. Chiol Wu shoves one into his mouth and is immediately blown away by the flavor, shocked that a simple street stall could produce such incredibly high-quality food. Jian agrees the filling is excellent and far superior to their previous meals. He questions if it's really pork, and the vendor confirms it's just standard ground pork prepared with his own secret touch. Jian wonders why the flavor profile is so different from other places using the same meat. The vendor brags that no one in the area uses higher quality pork than his humble little shop does. Chiol Wu asks if it's about using different cuts of meat. The vendor smiles and clarifies that the secret isn't the cut, but the sheer skill of the man who actually butchered the animal. The vendor beams with pride over the butcher's unique skill. Chiol Wu remains lost, but the conversation is cut short when a frantic warning screams for everyone to get out of the way immediately. Jian senses the danger instantly. A massive runaway pig charges through the market at full speed, squealing like a demon and threatening to trample everything and everyone in its chaotic path to freedom. The beast hits the dirt with a heavy thud, neutralized in an instant. Chiol Wu stands firm, checking on Jian, who calmly thanks his subordinate for handling the sudden, squealing threat with absolute ease. Chiol Wu grins, curious where a random pig even came from. He looks down the street and sees a group of men in matching outfits sprinting toward them in a frantic, sweaty, and desperate panic. The men arrive gasping for air, checking if everyone is unharmed. Chiol Wu casually gestures to the carcass, noting that while they are perfectly fine, the pig has definitely seen much better days than this. Chiol Wu blames them for being careless and warns them not to expect payment for the dead animal. The men stare at the massive pig and the two strangers in utter, silent, and terrified disbelief. An old man screams at a group of subordinates, calling them pathetic idiots. The men bow low in shame, while the elder berates them for their repeated failures. One man apologizes profusely, but Chiol Wu interrupts, noting that no one got hurt. He coolly suggests the old man should be apologizing to the workers instead of apologizing for them. Jian asks about the applicants, as the old man shifts his tone. The elder explains the group let a pig escape and thanks the duo for stopping a potential disaster. The old man reveals he owns the local butcher shop and seeks his successor from this pool of applicants. Jian gestures toward his meal, asking if this man slaughtered the meat used for the dumplings. The butcher confirms Jian's hunch with a stoic look. Curious about the craft, Jian asks to inspect the butcher shop, catching both Cheol-woo and the old man off guard. The old man warns that a slaughterhouse isn't a pleasant sight for a guest. Jian remains unfazed, casually mentioning that such a rare sight is worth seeing at least once. After a tense silence, the old man relents and tells them to suit themselves. He leads the group away from the stalls and toward the back of the village. They arrive at a quiet workshop where a large, healthy pig rests on the floor. The old man stands over the animal, his presence suddenly turning much heavier. The elder calls his assistant useless for failing to handle the previous catch properly. He turns to the applicants, demanding to know why they think the earlier slaughter attempt failed. The applicants offer technical excuses, blaming poor chisel positioning or a slipping hammer. The old man listens intently, his eyes narrowing as he prepares to deliver a lesson. He dismisses their excuses, claiming the entire approach was wrong from the start. The applicants scoff at him, while Jian and Cheol-woo observe the old man's peculiar focus. The pig continues to eat from its bowl, completely unaware of the danger. The old man's gaze remains fixed on the beast, hiding every ounce of his presence. He kneels beside the animal with a hammer and chisel in hand. Telling everyone to watch closely, he prepares to demonstrate the true art of the kill. The applicants stare in disbelief as the pig stays calm despite the chisel touching its skin. They recall the animal going wild earlier at the mere sight of the tool. The old man explains that animals react sensitively to the faintest killing intent. He claims the pig stays still now only because it doesn't sense any threat from him. In a flash, the pig gets scared. Cheol-woo realizes the old man revealed his killing intent for just a split second before masking it again. Cheol-woo whispers to Jian, asking if the butcher is secretly a martial arts master. Jian notes there are no traces of internal energy, yet finds the man's precision incredibly impressive. The old man raises his hammer again, explaining that total concealment of intent is the mark of readiness. He strikes down with a finality that echoes through the room. Cheol-woo watches the pig die without even a whimper, stunned by the speed. Jian acknowledges the power behind the strike, recognizing a skill that rivals many warriors. The butcher barks at the frozen applicants to hurry up and drain the blood. He reminds them that the real work only begins once the breath is officially cut. Cheol-woo rubs his ear, wincing at the old man's booming voice. He asks if all that shouting is really needed. A nearby worker explains the master is desperate for a successor to carry on his legacy. Cheol-woo scoffs at the idea of killing pigs for a living, but Jian shuts him down. He respects the dedication required to master a craft over an entire lifetime, no matter how humble the job. Cheol-woo compares the old man to Master Bolto, noting both had incredible voices. Jian adds that the master was physically massive too, making the comparison even more fitting for his loud old subordinate. Jian teases that the master only favored Cheol-woo because of his bulky frame. Before Cheol-woo can argue, Jian decides they are taking over the butcher shop, catching his partner completely off guard. Cheol-woo is stunned, but Jian points out they've spent the whole day looking for honest work with zero luck. This shop is their best shot at landing a regular job to support the family. Jian admits life would be simpler if they drew their swords, but he wants a career he can brag about to his siblings. He warns Cheol-woo to stop nearly blurting out their demonic past. Jian addresses the old man directly, offering their services as applicants. The master butcher turns around looking skeptical that these two fancy-looking guys actually want to get their hands dirty in a bloody slaughterhouse. The old man chuckles, assuming they think the job is a breeze after watching him work. He dismisses them immediately, telling the pair to head back home because they clearly aren't cut out for butchery. Jian isn't moving. He compliments the old man's perfect one-strike kill, recognizing the immense skill hidden in the movement. His observation leaves the butcher stunned into silence, realizing Jian isn't some random clueless amateur. Testing their resolve, the old man leads a fresh pig into the center of the room. He wants to see if Jian's talk matches his ability to actually handle the pressure of the kill. The master stares Jian down, challenging him to prove his worth. He assumes anyone wanting to run this place must already have the basic skills down and demands Jian show him his technique. Jian admits he's never actually slaughtered anything before, but he's willing to give it a shot. He kneels before the pig, hammer and chisel in hand, looking remarkably calm for a complete first-timer. A single precise strike sends blood flying across the floor. The pig drops instantly without a sound. Jian stands over the kill, showing the exact same effortless efficiency that the old master just demonstrated. The old man's jaw hits the floor in pure shock. He spent his entire life perfecting that technique, yet this stranger just pulled it off perfectly. He demands to know if Jian really is self-taught. Jian casually claims he just copied what he saw a moment ago. Without missing a beat, he snaps at Sheol Wu to stop standing around and help him hang the heavy animal up for processing. Sheol Wu effortlessly hoists the massive pig into the air, a feat that usually requires multiple grown men. The old man watches, frozen, as the big guy starts chaining the legs to the ceiling. Sheol Wu asks if all these specialized tools are even necessary, sounding genuinely curious. The old man can only blink in confusion as Sheol Wu starts walking toward the exit to finish the task. The master butcher stares in disbelief while Sheol Wu grumbles and gets to work. The giant subordinate approaches the carcass with a bored expression, clearly ready to show off some of his own freakish strength, holding the dead weight with one hand. Completely unfazed by the master's shock, he figures as long as the animal gets slaughtered, it doesn't matter how much raw power he uses. The old man looks stunned, realizing Jian isn't some random job seeker. He asks if he's from the Marim. Jian keeps it cool, admitting they used to be part of that world, but left it behind. Confused, the old man wonders why an expert would settle for butcher work. Jian looks him dead in the eye and explains they just want a shot at living a normal, quiet life for once. The old man notes their rough pasts and suggests they could find much better careers. Jian admits they've looked around, but finding a simple, honest start hasn't been as easy as it sounds. Sighing, the old man accepts the situation despite the time constraints. Jian offers a respectful salute, asking the master to train them properly. He's ready to trade his sword for a meat cleaver. The old man remains skeptical about their potential in the shop. Jian flashes a confident, slightly dangerous smirk, assuring the master that he won't be disappointed by what his new students can actually do. Elsewhere, a brush snaps under pure frustration. Yankojung glares with intensity as he hears mention of the House of the Immortal Healers, clearly agitated by the news reaching his ears. A subordinate reports that a royal in Hangzhou is dying. The court asked the Immortal Healers for help, but their physicians got into a violent clash with certain retainers while traveling to the city. Dang Bek reveals the retainers were actually hunting for the legendary Gongchong stalactite milk. The mention of such a priceless treasure catches Yangko Jung off guard, sparking immediate shock and greed in his eyes. Jung scoffs, calling it a waste to spend a fortune on a dying royal. Dongbek clarifies the medicine has a different owner, meaning there is still a golden chance for them to seize it. Jung realizes the healers don't actually own the milk. Dangbek explains the retainers were chasing the real owner when the clash happened. Jung loses his patience, demanding the subordinate stop stalling and speak up. He demands to know who currently holds the treasure. Dangbek identifies the man as Sama Jian from Sohung, who bought the rare milk from a merchant guild to save his sick younger sibling. Jung mocks the greedy merchant who lost the prize. He sees a perfect opportunity to cure the Yonko family's most precious member, realizing the medicine is finally within his reach if he acts fast. Jung slams the table, ordering his men to bring the sibling by any means. Even if the child swallowed the milk, he wants them alive to drain their blood and extract the remaining medicinal properties. Back at the shop, Jian slices through meat with surgical precision. The old man watches in total shock, laughing because he's never seen anyone master the butcher's knife with such unnatural speed and grace. The master praises Jian for his quick learning, realizing his sword background makes butchery look like child's play. He claims he has nothing left to teach. Jian remains humble, thanking him for the guidance. The old man reflects on his life's work, admitting he'd rather the shop close and lose its reputation. Jian listens silently, realizing how much his presence means to the old butcher's peace of mind. They shake hands with mutual respect. The old man feels he can finally retire in peace now that he's found a worthy successor. Jian simply smiles, glad to have fulfilled the old man's wish. Jian admits he was worried about his future after returning home, but this shop gave him a place to belong. Meanwhile, Chel Wu struggles in the background, lugging a massive pig carcass while grumbling. Chel Wu asks if he really needs to learn these gross skills. The old man tells Gian to keep the big guy away from the knives and just make him do all the heavy lifting. Gian agrees that Chel Wu's strength is perfect for hauling livestock. Chel Wu beams with a giant, toothy grin, finally happy that the old man said something he actually likes for a change. Chel Wu knocks back his drink, admitting knives aren't his style anyway. He's happy to follow the old man's advice and stick to heavy lifting while Jian watches his subordinate's easygoing nature. Jian sips his tea calmly, letting Chel Wu do his thing. The big guy laughs and offers the old butcher a refill, clearly enjoying the temporary peace before they officially dive into the shop's grind. Yan bursts in, calling the drinking nonsense during work hours. Chel Wu just grins, insisting one cup for the road is harmless, while the others enjoy a rare moment of relaxation in the butcher shop. The old man cackles, holding out his bowl for one last pour. He refuses to skip a drink on a day like this, even as Hyun stands there looking completely baffled by the rowdy atmosphere. Jian stands outside his new shop, staring at the sign. Jean walks out with a broom, her eyes lighting up when she spots Hyun. She's surprised her second brother made it back home so soon. Hyun snatches the broom away, scolding Jin for working in her fragile state. She just smiles, revealing that Jeon finally officially took over the shop. A fact Hyun already heard through the city's grapevine. Jin admits she wanted the place spotless because Jeon worked so hard to get it. Hyun tells her that's enough, but he's clearly touched by her dedication to their big brother's fresh start. Hyun asks if business is actually moving. Jin reveals the old owner passed away peacefully in his sleep right after Jeon took over, leaving the legendary shop entirely in their brother's capable hands. Jeon walks in with a fresh basket of meat, noticing Hyun's early return. He was worried the escort mission would take longer, but the younger brother looks relieved to be back with the family. Hyun can't hide his bewilderment at Jeon's new life as a butcher. Jeon just shrugs it off, casually prepping the cuts, unfazed by how strange his career pivot looks to his own brothers. Hyun warns him that the old man's standards were sky high and the shop is famous. If the quality drops even a little, the customers will start cursing, but Jeon remains cool under the pressure. Hyun assures him he's got this. They all have to work hard to survive. Their quiet conversation gets cut short by a frantic voice screaming for Jeon from just outside the shop's front doors. Gwongo sprints inside, shouting that someone has finally arrived. Gyeon looks up from his meat slabs, his internal alarms quietly triggering as he wonders what kind of trouble is knocking on their door now. Sheol Woo shuts the kid up by hoisting him by the ear. He tells Gwonko to speak properly instead of causing a scene, while the youngest brother yelps in pain from the iron grip. Gwonko rubs his sore ear, complaining about the unnecessary violence. Sheol Woo just laughs it off as a display of affection, threatening to show him real violence if he doesn't get to the point. Gwonko finally spills the news. A doctor from Chongsim Clinic is looking for them. The physician who went to Hangzhou is back and wants to see the youngest sibling immediately for her critical treatment. Jeon drops everything, his focus shifting instantly to Jin's health. He leads the way to the Chongsim Clinic, his casual butcher persona replaced by the sharp intensity of a protective and lethal older brother. Wang Jung greets them with a bright smile, having expected their arrival. Jeon and Jin salute the doctor with deep respect, hopeful that this visit brings the cure they've been desperately seeking. The doctor notes his family wanted to see the patient as soon as possible. He introduces his composed companion, Hwang Young, who stands silently behind him, her presence radiating the aura of a master. Jeon locks eyes with the female martial artist, sensing a shift in the air. Hwang Young smiles back, acknowledging a hidden connection between them that most people wouldn't even begin to notice. Wang Jung notices the tension, asking if everyone knows each other. The guards finally realize why the Heavenly Killer gang hunted Jeon so ruthlessly. The dots are starting to connect for everyone. Jeon explains they crossed paths during the hunt for the stalactite milk. Kwanjeong laughs heartily, calling the reunion a strange twist of fate. The atmosphere lightens slightly as they acknowledge the coincidence. Jeon offers another sincere thank you for their past assistance. Hwang Young brushes it off, admitting anyone would be that desperate when trying to save a sick younger sister. She respects his drive. Jeon introduces Jin to her potential savior. Jin politely asks for help, her voice small. Young beams, complimenting the girl's beauty and comparing her to a graceful fairy before they begin. Young takes Jin's hands, explaining that a doctor can't work miracles alone. The patient has to fight just as hard. Jin agrees solemnly, and a brief moment of warmth passes between them. The pleasantries end as Yuang orders everyone to clear the room. Jeon and Jung share a serious look. The weight of the moment hits as the door shuts for the critical examination. An hour drags by like an eternity. Cheol Woo paces the hallway, grumbling about the wait, while Jeon stands in silent agony, his mind racing through every possible bad outcome for his sister. The door finally clicks open, and Hwang Young steps out with a heavy expression. Jeon lunges forward, his eyes searching hers for any sign of good news. The tension in the hall is suffocating. Young identifies the condition as the Heavenly Yin Divine Pulse, not the common 9 Yin variety. The reveal shocks the room. This diagnosis changes everything they thought they knew about Jin's suffering. She explains the subtle differences, recalling a similar case buried in her family's old records. While the symptoms look identical, the core energy is a completely different, much more aggressive monster. Jeon asks the only question that matters. Can she cure it? Young can't give a straight yes, but she mentions that their special acupuncture techniques are documented to have a real effect. Cheol Woo asks if the patient in the records actually survived. Young's face goes stony, her silence speaking louder than any words. The hope in the room takes a massive, visible hit. Darkness settles over the clinic as the grim reality sinks in. The shadows loom large, mirroring the uphill battle Jin is about to face. It's no longer just an illness, it's a war. Guanho wonders if it'll work out, and Cheol Woo snaps that it has to. They realize the healers haven't even properly started the real procedure yet. The long night is just beginning. Jian stares into the distance with cold, unwavering focus. He's processed the danger, but his determination hasn't cracked. He's ready to do whatever it takes to keep his sister alive. Wang Yang's eyes cloud over as she delivers the crushing truth. The previous treatment failed. Jian stands there, taking the hit as the harsh reality of Jin's fate starts to settle in. She explains the failure came down to timing. The woman was 21 when she returned home, and the yin energy had already rotted her bones. Medicine is useless once the damage is permanent. The news gets worse. Young explains that while the symptoms mimic the 9 yin pulse, the actual energy flow is far more violent and destructive. It's effectively a much more severe death sentence. Wang Zheng is confused since 9 yin patients usually die at 18. Yang clarifies the stalactite milk only bought the previous girl 3 more years of suffering. Jiang looks devastated by the grim comparison. Yang insists that acupuncture combined with the milk would have changed the outcome entirely. Jian lowers his head, officially placing Jin's life in her hands. She is his last and only hope. Huang Yang stays silent while Jian centers himself, sitting like a statue on the wooden platform. He's prepping his mind for what's coming, looking every bit the legendary warrior he used to be, his eyes sharpened with a hidden anxiety he can't shake. Outside, Chiao Wu loses his patience when Guanggo's stomach lets out a massive growl, forcing a quick shush before they're spotted by the enemy. A small projectile flicks Guanggo's forehead, snapping the kid back to attention. Chiao Wu checks in with the boss, and Jian gives a short, cold confirmation. The quiet time is officially over for everyone. Jian senses trouble, calling out the uninvited guests lurking in the shadows. He stands tall with Chiao Wu both staring into the thick, misty bamboo forest where the air feels heavy with killing intent. The mist swirls around the dense bamboo, hiding a literal army. Dozens of masked assassins wait in the trees, their presence finally revealed as they prepare to storm the clinic to steal the prize. Their scarred leader identifies the target, the legendary stalactite milk. He's cold and focused, planning to personally crush the healers while his teams handle the rest of the dirty work in the area. Orders go out to the Team 3 leader to lock down the front gate. They aren't planning on leaving any survivors, demanding a total sweep as the squad prepares to lunge into action. The assassins charge, but Chiao Wu steps out of the brush like a brick wall. He grins like a maniac, mocking the rats for thinking they could sneak past him without a fight. Before they can react, Chiao Wu drops the hammer. He delivers a bone-shattering blow that turns an assassin into a crater, proving his Vowsra indestructible body isn't just for show or heavy lifting. The leader demands an identity, but Chiao Wu just throws the question back at them. He looms over the group, totally unimpressed by the masked idiots invading his space and ruining the vibe. Chiao Wu flicks his finger, making fun of their matching uniforms. The scarred leader realizes he's dealing with a high-level expert who can drop grown men in a single effortless strike. The leader clocks that this big guy isn't Samagyaan. He tells his men to finish Chiao Wu while he heads off to handle the main target and the milk himself. A sudden burst of speed creates a shockwave that rattles the forest. Chiao Wu's eyes go wide for a second, actually impressed by the sheer velocity the scarred leader possesses. The leader flies through the air, moving like a dark shadow. His subordinates realize their boss has no intention of holding back, leaving them to deal with the mountain of a man. Chiao Wu watches the leader use a top-tier Lightfoot technique to vanish. The lackeys try to taunt him about Jian's safety, but Chiao Wu just finds the idea of Jian being in danger hilarious. The lead assassin hates the guy's attitude. Chiao Wu just smirks and offers a simple bet. Let's see which boss is actually lying dead in the dirt by the end of this. The masked goons apologize for what they're about to do, claiming it's nothing personal. Chiao Wu tells them to shut up and get in here already, tired of the talk. The entire squad lunges at once, surrounding Chiao Wu from every angle in the air. They drop down like a net of steel, aiming to end him instantly with their blades. Chiao Wu just looks up, his grin widening as they get close. A massive, blinding explosion of power erupts from his body, swallowing the assassin's whole in a violent flash of white. The scarred leader feels the massive shockwave behind him and grits his teeth. He realizes his men are in deep trouble and knows he needs to kill Jian quickly to save the mission. A scarred assassin leader stares intensely, overthinking the situation until Jian suddenly appears right in front of him. Jian looks completely bored, casually asking what's weighing so heavily on the man's mind. The assassin panics, shocked that Jian moved without making a single sound. He draws his blades in a desperate rush, demanding to know where Jian came from and what he's actually doing in these woods. The leader realizes he's dealing with a monster, not an amateur butcher. Jian sighs, noticing the guy has no intention of talking, and prepares to end the confrontation right then and there. The assassin lunges with an overhead strike, but Jian remains unfazed. He counters with a devastating vertical slash, a pillar of light that completely shatters the man's rhythm and any hope of a successful defense. Terror fills the leader's eyes as Jian's power erupts. A flurry of red-tinted strikes tears through the misty forest, shredding everything in their path and leaving the gang's coordination in absolute tatters. Jian catches the assassin's blade with 2 fingers and snaps the steel like a toothpick. The sharp crack echoes through the bamboo, leaving the stunned attacker holding nothing but a useless broken hilt. Without breaking his cool, Jian delivers a crushing blow that pins the leader to the dirt. The man lets out a ragged scream, finally understanding that his skills are nothing compared to the former first sword. Jian stands over the broken man, demanding answers. He asks if the gang was targeting the clinic, the immortal healers, or if their goal was something much more specific and valuable. When Jian mentions the Gonchong stalactite milk, the assassin's face turns pale with shock. His reaction confirms Jian's suspicions, revealing that the gang was indeed hunting for the rare and powerful medicinal treasure. Jian narrows his eyes, annoyed that his secret leaked out. He questions how a low-level thug heard about the milk, since very few people knew he had actually obtained it for his sister's treatment. The assassin realizes there is no escape and prepares to die. Jian tries to offer him a deal for his life, but the man's expression turns grim as he prepares to take a dark secret to his grave. The leader suddenly collapses, foam bubbling at his lips as he hits the grass. Jian watches the life fade from the man's eyes, realizing the interrogation is over before it even truly began. Jian confirms the guy bit a hidden poison pill, committing suicide to protect his employer. He looks away, realizing he should have told Chiol Wu to leave at least one witness alive for questioning. Chiol Wu strolls into the clearing, casually asking if the boss finished his business. Jian looks back in disbelief, already sensing that his subordinate didn't leave a single person breathing in the forest. Jian stares at the bamboo grove, now a graveyard filled with downed assassins. He regrets sending Chiol Wu, as the massive pile of bodies proves the big man doesn't know the meaning of restraint. Chiol Wu laughs, noting the leader was too distracted by Jian to see his men dying. He calls the guy an idiot for poisoning himself before they could even have some real fun. They stand among the corpses while Chiol Wu complains about losing the trail to the mastermind. Chon shuts it down, stating that the milk effectively doesn't exist anymore to prevent future attacks. Jian warns that any future flies will end up exactly like the dead men rotting in the grass. Chiol Wu just grins, claiming that a swarm of assassins adds some much-needed excitement to their boring lives. Jian gives him a look of pure judgment, asking if he really wants to see more blood after this massacre. Chiol Wu realizes he overstepped and tries to laugh it off with a nervous smile. Jian admits he hates the thought of his peace being broken, and Chiol Wu agrees. The sentiment is short-lived, however, as Jian tells him to stay behind and clean up every single body. Jian walks away from the massacre, leaving the heavy lifting to his subordinate. Chiol Wu stares at the piles of bodies in the bamboo, wondering when he'll ever finish cleaning this bloody disaster. Chiol Wu finally catches up after the dirty work. Jian is busy washing up, trying to scrub the night's tension off his face while the big guy sighs with relief. Finally finished with the corpses, Jian smells smoke and side-eyes Chiol Wu for burning the woods to hide the blood. Chiol Wu laughs it off, pointing out the mess was just too much to handle normally before asking about the patient. They gossip about the rare medicine until Jian hears the door. Quan Jiang stumbles out, wiping sweat from his brow like he just survived a marathon, looking completely drained from the intense procedure. Jian demands an update immediately. The doctor delivers the win, confirming the golden needle technique worked perfectly, and his sister's condition is actually on the upswing for the first time in years. The news hits like a ton of bricks. Jian loses his cool for a second, grabbing the doctor's hands and thanking him with the kind of raw desperation only a protective older brother would have. Zhong leads them inside to see the aftermath. They find Huang Yong slumped over, drenched in sweat and looking like she just went 10 rounds with a demon during the treatment. Jian's eyes widen as he sees the dark impurities leaking out of her skin. It looks nasty, but the doctor explains it's just the toxic energy finally being expelled from her system. The clinic guards try to get Yong to chill, but the vibe turns sour. Zhang admits that even with the needles and the oil, they sadly failed to achieve a complete, permanent cure. Jian is confused since the guy literally just said things were better. Jian clarifies she's way healthier than she ever was, but she isn't entirely out of the woods just yet. Yong looks down, apologizing for the partial success. Jian isn't even mad. He knows how risky that acupuncture was and offers his genuine thanks for keeping his sister alive. Yong considers the treatment a professional win, calling it a lucky chance to treat such a rare illness. A quick look back shows Jin lying still, covered in needles during the peak of treatment. Chiol Wu isn't feeling the half-cure vibes at all. He stands there like a mountain, his face darkening with a bad feeling as the doctors start talking about their limits and failures. The clinic staff senses the shift and tenses up. Jian tells Chiol Wu to shut it, realizing the big guy thinks all the doctor's explanations are just fancy words to cover for a mistake. Chiol Wu mocks their talk of luck, flashing a dangerous, sharp grin. The clinic guards snap back, taking his attitude as a direct insult to their young lady and their family's medical legacy. The big guy doesn't back down, asking if he said anything wrong as his eyes start to glow with power. The air gets heavy, literally blowing the guards back with pure, overwhelming spiritual pressure. Both Zhang and Yang stare in disbelief. They've seen strong warriors, but Xiao Wu's aura is on a completely different level, making the room feel like it's about to buckle under his strength. Then Jian decides to end it. He drops a pressure so heavy it makes Xiao Wu's look like a joke, eyes glowing red as he demands an immediate apology from his subordinate. Xiao Wu hits the deck instantly, folding under Jian's terrifying weight and apologizing for his big mouth. Jian follows suit, offering a formal apology for his younger brother's total lack of manners. Yang waves it off, looking at Jian with a mix of awe and fear. She warns them that while she expects smooth sailing for now, they can't ignore the chance of a relapse. Wang Zheng insists his needle technique was flawless. However, he admits Jin's condition is far worse than a standard energy blockage, confessing he made a serious misjudgment during the treatment process. Jian asks for clarification on this mistake. Jung explains he put far too much faith in the healing properties of gongchang oil, which leaves Jian visibly stunned by the doctor's rare admission of failure. The oil simply couldn't handle the massive yin energy within the divine meridian. Xiao Wu loses his cool, shouting about how insanely powerful a medicine would actually need to be to save the girl. Guang Yang notes that while the oil is balanced, Jin's extreme condition requires a one-sided surge of energy. She watches the unconscious girl, who remains pinned with various acupuncture needles to stay stable. Jian connects the dots, realizing Jin needs something specialized to survive. He stares intensely at Yong, demanding to know the name of the specific medicine required for his sister's recovery and eventual cure. The room goes quiet before Yang drops a bombshell. She reveals the only cure is the Great Restoration Pill, a legendary treasure guarded deep within the heavily fortified walls of the Shaolin Temple. Later, over a plate of meat at their shop, Xiao Wu casually asks if Jian plans to commit a robbery. Jian looks up from his meal, confused about where his subordinate thinks they are going. Xiao Wu clarifies he is talking about hitting Shaolin. Gian sighs, deciding to wait since Jin is stable for now, showing he isn't in a hurry to start a war with the monks. Jian plans to stay home for a bit, much to Xiao Wu's surprise. He figures there is no need to rush into danger when his sister's immediate health crisis has finally passed for the moment. Jian wants quality time with his siblings after a decade away. He also mentions the need to get their butcher shop running properly before he can even think about leaving town on a long journey. Running the shop requires reliable staff, and Jian intends to train people to handle it in his absence. Xiao Wu stops mid-drink, wondering exactly who Jian has in mind for such a boring job. Jian targets his younger brothers for the training. Xiao Wu agrees that delaying the Shaolin trip makes sense, until the boys are capable of keeping the family business from falling apart without them. Xiao Wu remarks that while Haiyan is a hard worker, Guangko is usually a mess. Just then, Guangko bursts into the shop, screaming for his brother in a state of absolute frantic panic. Jian tells the boy to chill and explain the situation. Breathless and sweating, Guangko stammers out that their brother has been taken, his eyes wide with fear as he breaks the terrible news. The peaceful lunch ends instantly, as Jian demands to know the details of the kidnapping. Xiao Wu stands up, his casual vibe replaced by a look of focused, predatory aggression toward the unknown culprits. Guangko explains that Hyun was working a transport job for the Juhei Escort Bureau when bandits ambushed him. Xiao Wu growls, insulted that low-level thugs would dare touch a member of their family. Jian doesn't waste time and decides to hit the escort bureau first for answers. His expression turns cold, signaling that whoever took his brother just made a fatal mistake they will soon regret. They arrive at the massive gates of the Juhai Escort Bureau. Guanho leads the way as they find a chaotic scene unfolding inside the courtyard, which is currently filled with shouting and rising tension. A crowd of frantic parents surrounds an official, demanding to know if their sons are safe. The bureau man tries to settle the mob, claiming they are already negotiating with the kidnappers for release. The official promises that lives are their top priority and everyone will return safely. Guion and his crew stand at the back, unimpressed by the bureau's empty words and clear lack of real control. Guangko steps up to the bureau official, sick of the formal runaround. He decides to skip the crowd and ask directly about the rescue plan, while the official looks annoyed by the sudden, blunt interruption. Using his alias, Guangko reports his brother is still held captive. Guion and Chahal Wu hang back, watching the bureau staff carefully. The official claims they're purely focused on peaceful negotiations to resolve the situation. The man dismisses the worried crowd, waving a paper and begging for trust. He turns his back to the murmuring families, heading back inside the building while the tension in the courtyard continues to simmer. Cheol Wu calls out the official for being a total fake. Guanho agrees, spotting his brother's colleague Zhangsong nearby. He decides to corner the guy for the real story since the official is clearly lying. Guanho confronts Zhangsong, demanding the truth about the supposed negotiations. Zhangsong tries to play it cool, telling him to just relax and wait, but his nervous face gives away that something is definitely going wrong. Guanho drags Zhangsong into a quiet corner for a private chat. Gian and Xiao Wu follow right behind them, keeping their eyes peeled. They aren't about to let the only solid lead walk away so easily. Cornered in the alley, Zhangsong finally cracks and admits the situation is a nightmare. He reveals the kidnappers are demanding a ransom so massive it's basically insane, admitting the bandits have completely lost their minds. Guangho's face goes pale as he asks for the specific number. Zhang Xiang drops the bomb. The bandits want a staggering 100 taels of gold, an amount no small escort bureau could ever hope to pay. Jian and Xiao Wu step out from the shadows, surprising Zhang Xiang. Jian acts casual, claiming the youngest brother fainted from the shock of the news to explain why they were lurking nearby instead of coming inside. Zhang Xiang panics, asking if Jin is okay after hearing the news. Jian keeps a straight face and confirms she's fine for now, though his cold gaze suggests he's already calculating how to end this mess. Zhang Song sighs in relief, but Xiao Wu isn't finished. He points out the obvious flaw. A tiny bureau like this couldn't possibly scrape together that much gold, meaning the negotiation talk is just a desperate front. Zhang Song gets defensive about the bureau's reputation, but Xiao Wu shuts him down. He correctly guesses the bureau was planning to send a secret rescue squad instead of paying, catching the guard completely off guard. Stunned, Zhangshang wonders how Xiao Wu knew about the hush-hush plan. Xiao Wu just scoffs, noting that the bureau lacks the raw power to actually pull off a successful raid against a group that bold. Zhang Song reveals they're seeking outside help and have already sent scouts to find reinforcements. Jian looks skeptical, knowing the bandits are likely expecting a move and are probably setting a trap for the rescue party. Jian asks who is behind the kidnapping, puzzled why the bandits crossed the line. Zhang Song explains the criminals haven't learned their lesson, even after their main base was recently crushed by a mysterious unknown force. Jian's eyes sharpen when he hears the stronghold was decimated. Zhang Song confirms it was the famous Golden Tiger stronghold, which was supposedly wiped out recently, leaving a power vacuum that's now being filled by remnants. While the locals celebrated the stronghold's fall, the peace was short-lived. Jian realizes the threat has evolved, asking if the Golden Tiger group has already managed to rebuild their ranks and return to the road. Zhang Song drops a chilling rumor. The leader who had previously abandoned the group has returned to take command. John stares off silently, realizing this isn't just a simple kidnapping by some low-level thugs anymore. Jian makes a quick decision, telling Guanggo to head back and look after Jin. Guanggo is confused by the sudden order, but Jian is already preparing to head out and handle the bandits himself. Xiao Wu grins and puts a hand on Guanzhou's shoulder, telling him to leave the heavy lifting to the professionals. He assures the kid they have the connections needed to bring their brother back. Inside the Zhuhai Escort Bureau, the boss panics after hearing some wild news. He can't believe his ears, literally shaking with shock while asking if the reports are actually true. His subordinate confirms the Yoma Escort Bureau reached out. The boss pumps his fists, thanking the heavens for finally throwing them a bone during this hostage nightmare. He asks if the legendary Namgang clan is actually stepping in. The aide says they already hauled tail toward the Golden Tiger stronghold, leaving the boss stunned by their speed. They decide to move out immediately to save their men. Meanwhile, deep in the Misty Mountains, a very different kind of meeting goes down at a crumbling fortress. At the top of broken stairs, the bandit leader drinks alone. He sits on a tacky leopard skin throne surrounded by the wreckage of his recently thrashed base. He grumbles, asking if those escort bureau chumps have reacted. His scarred lackey reports they've already sliced off and sent back the ears of 4 different hostages. The leader fumes because the mutilated hostages haven't triggered a payment. The lackey nervously mentions a counter-proposal, trying to avoid his boss's growing temper. The bureau claims they're broke and can't cover the full ransom. They suggest paying half the gold up front, which only makes the bandit leader more annoyed. They want half the hostages back first. The leader rages, feeling his reputation is in the gutter because the stronghold got wrecked while he was out. He crushes his drink, obsessed with finding the person who leveled his base. The subordinate admits they're searching everywhere, but still haven't found a single clue. Rebuilding is the priority since he's sucking up to Green Forest elders. He needs to squeeze every cent out of the hostages to pay back his backers. He orders his men to gouge out more eyes. Suddenly, a smug guy in a fancy red cape strolls in, suggesting they just cut off heads instead. The leader is stunned to see the Green Forest Chief Inspector. The newcomer warns that being too brutal might invite a massive subjugation squad from the local sect. The inspector just grins, saying that's exactly what he's hoping for. He's confident because the Green Forest top masters and elders are all backing them up. 2 creepy elders, a giant meathead and a pipe-smoking crone, laugh off the threat. They claim unless the Imperial Army shows up, nobody can touch them. Convinced, the leader orders the executions to start immediately. His command is cut short when the entire wall explodes inward in a shower of splintered wood. The bandits gawk in total disbelief as the dust clears. Gion stands in the middle of the wreckage, looking bored after literally kicking the front door down. Chaolu Wu stomps in, mocking them for fixing the place up so fast. He remembers breaking it the first time and seems ready to do it again. The leader screams, asking if they're the rescue squad. Jian just stands there with a deadpan expression while the freaky green forest elders size him up. Jian claims they're just humble shopkeepers from the market. After confirming the guy is the leader, his gaze turns ice cold as he delivers a simple death sentence. The bandit leader No snaps at the impudent brats, but the red-caped inspector steps in to stop him. Jian and Xiao Wu stand their ground, staring down the group with zero fear in their eyes. The inspector tells Now to hand Jian over, claiming the elder's boredom has finally peaked. No begrudgingly agrees, stepping back to let the masters handle the two intruders who dared to crash their party. An old elder with a pipe cackles, thrilled for the distraction. Xiao Wu offers to mop up the extras while Jian handles the boss. But Jian sees right through him, asking if he's just fight hungry. Xiao Wu admits it's a bit of both, and Jian gives him the green light. The bandits and elders square up, but they clearly have no idea what kind of monster they're dealing with. Xiao Wu lunges forward with a massive wind-splitting punch. The pipe-smoking elder effortlessly ducks the strike, wearing a smug, creepy grin as he prepares to counter the big man's aggressive opening move. The elder stabs his long pipe straight at Xiao Wu's chest with lethal precision. Blue sparks fly as the weapon hits, but Xiao Wu's Basra indestructible body absorbs the impact like it was nothing at all. The old man's face twists in shock when his strike fails to penetrate. He quickly leaps back to create distance, realizing his opponent isn't just some random thud with a lot of muscle. He can't believe a kid blocked 60 years of inner force with just protective chi. Realizing this is no ordinary boy, the elder stops playing around and begins channeling his full, burning aura. Xiao Wu stays completely unfazed by the elder's surging power, which only unnerves the old man more. Xiao Wu cracks his knuckles, deciding it's finally time to start taking this little warm-up seriously. With a cocky smirk, Xiao Wu taunts the elder, asking if he's actually going to move. The old man loses his cool completely, screaming at the little bastard as his rage boils over. The elder dives from the air, aiming his pipe like a spear. Xiao Wu doesn't even flinch, standing firm within a dome of crackling blue energy as the old man commits to his final attack. The elder screams for him to die, convinced he's landed a perfect killing blow. Instead, his pipe shatters into pieces against Xiao Wu's chest, leaving the master totally defenseless and wide open. The old man's eyes bulge in pure terror as he stares at his broken weapon. The realization hits him too late. He's completely outclassed by a monster he can't even scratch. Xiao Wu delivers a crushing uppercut that nearly takes the elder's head off. The strike connects with a sickening crack, sending blood and teeth flying as the old man is launched skyward. The elder's body flies back like a ragdoll until the bald giant catches him. The giant looks on in horror, shouting the old man's name as he sees the state of his fallen comrade. The beaten elder wheezes out a desperate warning to be careful before passing out. The bald giant is left reeling, unable to comprehend how one of their greatest masters was one shot. He stares at Xiao Wu, wondering what kind of monster he's facing. Meanwhile, Xiao Wu is actually panicking, clutching his head because he's annoyed that his protective chi actually got pierced by the old guy. Xiao Wu asks Jian if he's getting rusty or if the elder was just that strong. Jian doesn't give him an inch, casually confirming that he's definitely getting duller by the day. Xiao Wu groans that practicing on cattle and pigs wasn't enough. Feeling the heat, he challenges the entire bandit unit to come at him all at once to help him shake off the rust. Bandits in the rafters tremble as the bald elder realizes they can't save face anymore. He orders an all-out attack, hoping to create any opening against the terrifying wall of muscle before them. Xiao Wu doesn't waste time and sends a massive fist straight into the bald giant's jaw. The impact is heavy, rattling the entire room as the bandit's head snaps back from the sheer force. The giant crashes through the wooden floor, leaving a trail of splinters and dust. Seeing their heavy hitter fall, the inspector loses his cool and orders every remaining unit to launch a full-scale assault. Xiao Wu just grins, calling them annoying flies while his blue aura flares up. Bandits swarm him from every side, but their blades just clatter uselessly against his indestructible skin, like toothpicks hitting steel. The inspector screams for his men to move, sensing a massive energy buildup. Xiao Wu ignores the frantic warnings, winding up a punch that practically vibrates the air with pure, concentrated power. The building basically gives up as the shockwave rips through the ranks. Bandits go flying like rag dolls amidst the crunch of breaking timber, leaving the inspector staring at the impossible destruction in total disbelief. Even with his face smashed in, the bald giant lunges back for one last desperate strike. Chio Wu actually respects the guy's grit, giving a small smirk before preparing to end this little comeback attempt. The giant ignites his remaining life force into a fiery aura, screaming that he won't go down alone. He looks like a monster, pushing past his physical limits for one final, suicidal explosion of power. Chio Wu calls it wishful thinking and steps into the heat without flinching. He throws a straight right that cuts through the giant's flames, looking completely bored by the bandits' last-ditch effort to be a hero. Their fists collide in a spectacular burst of blue sparks and orange fire. The clash briefly levels the surroundings, but Chio Wu's superior power easily shatters the giant's resolve and his remaining energy. The inspector watches his last hope get pulverized, his face contorting in pure terror. Chio Wu follows through with a strike so fast it leaves a trail of light, finishing the giant for good. The massive bandit falls like a sack of bricks, leaving the room silent and filled with smoke. The inspector stands frozen, realizing he's the only one left, facing a guy who barely broke a sweat. Chio Wu walks over the giant's unconscious body, looking disappointed. He calls the inspector a coward for trying to hide behind his men while the real fighters were putting their lives on the line. Desperate, the inspector tries to pull the family cart, begging for his life by mentioning his father's title. Chio Wu isn't interested in the family tree and shuts him up by grabbing his face mid-sentence. With a casual slam, Chio Wu pins the loudmouth against a pillar, finally getting some peace and quiet. He admits that a little exercise like this is actually a pretty good way to relax. Chio Wu cleans his hands, telling the boss the small fry are handled. Jian finally narrows his eyes, focusing his cold gaze on the only target left worth his attention in this ruined mess. The bandit leader stands alone, sweating as he realizes his elite unit was wiped out in seconds. He immediately starts looking for an exit, willing to sacrifice everyone just to live another day. Jian steps into the light, looking perfectly composed amidst the rubble. He casually answers the bandits' earlier question, confirming they are indeed the ones responsible for leveling this entire fortress once before. The leader's eyes glow a demonic red as the realization hits him like a truck. Pure, unadulterated rage takes over, and he vows to kill everyone as his aura explodes in a desperate, murderous frenzy. Deep in the misty forest nearby, the atmosphere is heavy and silent. Something else is moving through the trees, far away from the chaos currently unfolding inside the bandit stronghold's main hall. Nam Gung Min leads his family's warriors through the dense brush, complaining about the annoying thorny vines. They're closing in on a location, completely unaware of the absolute massacre that just happened inside. Ho Yugan leads the squad through the dense forest, apologizing for the rough terrain. Nam Gung Jiang brushes it off, focused on the bandit hunt while excusing the younger warriors' impatience. Jiang rallies the Namgang family warriors, laying down the law. He emphasizes that captive safety is the top priority. No one gets to play hero if it puts the prisoners in danger. After a quick moment of reflection, Yang signals the advance. The group moves deeper into the woods, ready to finally confront the lawless scum hiding in the shadows of the mountain. Yang suddenly freezes, his senses picking up a disturbance. His subordinate looks confused, but the old man senses a massive clash already underway just a short distance ahead of their current position. The combat feels over as quickly as it started. Gyayung wonders if another group beat them to the punch. Regardless of who is responsible, they pick up the pace to secure the site. Inside the fortress, the bandit leader lunges with a desperate roar. Jian moves like a ghost, casually sidestepping the heavy blade without even breaking his stride or showing a hint of effort. The bandit leader loses his mind, frustrated by Jian's untouchable defense. He screams at the man to stop dancing around and face him, unable to land even a single scratch on the protagonist. Jian's expression remains ice cold as he stares through his opponent. He mocks the man, asking if he actually feels victimized because his criminal playground got turned into a pile of toothpicks. The bandit vows to erase Gian's entire bloodline for ruining his life's work. Gian just stares him down, completely unimpressed by a legacy built on kidnapping, oppression, and the misery of others. The bandit tries to justify his crimes as just part of the lifestyle, but Gian isn't buying it. He closes the distance in a flash, preparing to deliver some overdue justice. A single devastating punch sends the bandit leader crashing into the floorboards. The impact is massive, turning the once arrogant criminal into a crumpled, bleeding heap in a matter of seconds. Gian looms over him, revealing the personal stakes involved. 12 years ago, he was a victim of this exact trade, captured during an escort mission and sold off like livestock to the cult. The bandit gags on his own blood, while Gian recounts his survival. He endured a living hell, overcoming death hundreds of times before finally clawing his way back to his home. Gian delivers a brutal stomp, his rage finally bubbling over. His disappearance destroyed his family and cost his mother her life, all thanks to the greed of human traffickers like this scum. Another heavy strike sends the bandit flying. Gian's voice is steady but lethal as he laments missing his mother's final moments because he was busy surviving as a slave in the demonic path. The bandit realizes his luck just ran out. Not only did a former victim return as a monster, but the bandit made the mistake of kidnapping Gion's sibling for a second round. The criminal starts begging for mercy, but Gion isn't in a forgiving mood. He looks down with absolute contempt, promising a fate much worse than a quick, clean death for the leader. Gion channels a surge of blue energy into the man, sealing his fate. He demands the location of the remaining captives before he'll even think about granting the mercy of death. Lightning-like energy surges through Gion, illuminating the room as the bandit begins to scream in pure agony. The interrogation moves past the talking phase into something much more painful. Gion stands like a demonic god amidst the static, his eyes glowing with power. Just as he's about to finish the interrogation, Nangong Jiong bursts in, shouting for him to stop. Gion stands tall as lightning energy crackles around him. He senses a new intruder and casually tells Chel Wu to handle the old man while he keeps his focus on the main target. Chel Wu agrees with a confident smirk. Suddenly, a veteran elder from the Namgung family charges in, screaming for everyone to stop while swinging his sword with a massive burst of desperate energy. Chel Wu doesn't care about the command and dares the elder to try stopping him. He channels a heavy red aura into his fist as the elder lunges forward with a lethal sword strike. Their powers collide in a blinding explosion of chi. The elder is forced back by the sheer pressure, his eyes widening in shock as he realizes his blade couldn't even scratch the big guy's skin. Blood drips from the elder's mouth as he stares at his opponent in disbelief. He can't believe his sword energy shattered so easily, and he immediately launches into a desperate flurry of defensive strikes. Chel Wu stands his ground, completely unfazed by the attack. He mocks the elder for barely dodging his counterpunch. Internally, the old man panics, realizing he is facing a monster beyond his level. The elder, Peng Yosang, acknowledges Chel Wu's terrifying skill despite his crude attitude. Chel Wu stands over a defeated bandit, finding this new challenger much more entertaining than the trash he just cleared. Yosang decides to get serious and grips his sword with everything he has left. He activates the Azure Sky 1 Chi art, surrounding his body in a fierce blue flame-like aura for a final stand. Chel Wu's grin widens as he senses the shift in power, amping up his own red chi. The elder lunges with the blue Cloud 12 swords, aiming to end the fight with one lethal move. Chel Wu meets the peak of the sword art with his bare fist. The collision of their opposing energies sends a massive shockwave through the building, threatening to shatter the very floor beneath them. Confident the elder can't dodge, Chel Wu drives forward with crushing force. The old man responds by pouring every ounce of his remaining energy into a final downward slash, hoping for a miracle strike. The impacts are relentless as Chel Wu punches through the sword's path. The elder is forced to use acrobatic maneuvers just to stay alive, while the air screams under the weight of their clash. The elder staggers back, coughing up a huge amount of blood as his energy fails. He is completely shaken, realizing that even his life-saving ultimate move failed to inflict a single fatal wound. Chel Wu calmly wipes a tiny drop of blood from a scratch on his neck. He looks thrilled rather than hurt, admitting it's been a long time since anyone managed to actually draw blood. The Namgung disciples watch in pure horror as their elder's best attack fails. Panic sets in amongst the ranks, and one warrior screams for the others to rush forward and protect their fallen leader. A group of swordsmen surrounds Chel Wu, but he just laughs at their desperation. He mocks them for relying on numbers, calling it a pathetic move used only by those with no real talent. Before the disciples can throw their lives away, Yosang barks an order for them to back down. He knows they stand no chance and tries to salvage what's left of his dignity in defeat. Yosang demands they retreat to preserve the Namgung family's honor. Chel Wu just cracks his knuckles, looking like he's more than ready to plow through the entire group if they don't leave quickly. Just as the tension reaches its peak, Gion intervenes and tells Chel Wu to wait. The big man stops instantly, his aggressive aura fading as he looks back to see what his boss wants. Chel Wu's jaw drops when he sees Gion's face. He looks completely baffled and asks what happened to the boss's expression. While Gion stands silently over the wreckage of his enemies, Namgung Jiong stands stunned that a man of Chel Wu's caliber obeys a single word. He eyes Gion's disguised face, questioning if he belongs to the elite Namgung family, while the air crackles with tension. Jiang introduces himself with authority, but Gion remains unimpressed. He flips the questioning back on the elder, demanding to know why the famous Namgung family has suddenly appeared at this grisly bandit fortress. Gaeong confirms the fallen bandit is indeed the Golden Tiger Chief. He explains his mission to rescue the Juhei escort agency members and demands to know why Gion's crew arrived first. Gion plays it cool, claiming they targeted the chief due to various commissions. Jiong remains skeptical, finding it hard to believe that mere fixers could possess martial arts this incredible and refined. Gion describes the chief's deeds as severe enough to earn a death sentence. Before Yang can intervene, Jian delivers a crushing blow to the bandit leader's head, finishing him off right in front of them. Yang explodes in fury at the sudden execution, but Jian dismisses it as debt collection for sins. Jiang worries about the missing prisoners, noting that Jian seemingly wiped out every single lead in the fortress. Jian reveals the chief talked while begging for his life. He points Jiang toward a hidden underground path tucked behind a large tree near a collapsed building, telling the elder to go find his people. The rescue team finds the captives, who cheer as their nightmare finally ends. Jian decides to head out. Casually mentioning the Namgung family's arrival would have kept everyone safe even without his own intervention. Jiang suggests Jian should at least meet the people he saved. But Jian isn't looking for thanks. He calls the encounter a simple coincidence and walks away with Cheol Wu, leaving the fortress behind. Yang watches them disappear into the distance, completely baffled by their unknown status. He admits he has never heard of such powerful men existing within the Morim, questioning the true identity of these mysterious fixers. The younger disciple expresses shock that Cho Wu remained unfazed by Yeong's sword. Yeong realizes the giant has likely mastered the legendary diamond indestructible body, reaching a level of external cultivation that defies common logic. Yang regrets the unfinished duel as the mysterious pair vanishes into the woods. Meanwhile, Cheol Wu breaks the silence, asking Jian for the specific reason behind his sudden and surprising facial transformation. Jian touches his face, realizing he stayed in his transformed state too long. He explains he used the disguise because dealing with the attention his true face brings is nothing but a massive, exhausting hassle. Jian warns that while they might not meet the Namgon family again, one can never be too certain. He insists on being careful in advance to avoid any unnecessary complications with major Muram players. He imagines the fallout if the world-discovered country butchers wiped out a fortress and fought a Namgung master. Jian fears their past actions in the demonic path might get revealed during the chaos. Cheol Wu points out that only Jian changed his face, but Jian shrugs it off. He admits it was too late to disguise Cheol Wu, though their performance today was convincing enough to lower the odds. With Hyun finally freed from the bandits, Jian focuses on getting home quickly. He wants everything ready to welcome his brother back and return to their quiet, ordinary life away from the blood and swords. Back at the shop, Jian and Cheol Wu go about their business until the door finally swings open. A battered and emotional Hyun stands there, announcing his return to the brothers who secretly saved him. Jian pulls Hyun into a warm hug, offering comfort after his long ordeal. Hyun mentions he heard the Namgung family acted as a rescue team, unaware his own brother was the one who fought. While Hain eats, he explains the Namgung warriors arrived at the fortress to strike the bandits. However, he remains confused, noting that a completely different group of people actually wiped out the Golden Tiger bandits. Jian eats quietly, stealing a side glance while Guango chows down. The atmosphere stays thick with a casual tension as the brothers reunite at the table after their long, brutal ordeal with the local bandits. Cheol Wu stands like a massive mountain behind them, arms crossed and looking thoughtful. He watches the brothers eat, clearly out of place in this small family setting, but remaining as loyal as a dog. Hyun digs into his rice with intense focus while Jian watches him with a subtle, satisfied smirk. It is a rare moment of peace for the former demonic swordmaster in his very simple home. A hand rests on the table next to an empty bowl as Hyun wipes his mouth, finally finished with his meal. The heavy silence says more than words ever could between the siblings after 12 years. Jian looks on calmly as Hyun asks if his new life involves learning the family butchery business. The transition from a weary porter to a butcher seems like a steep mountain for the younger brother. Guango gets a devious look in his eyes, glowing with excitement as he offers to teach his brother the ropes. He enjoys the power trip, ready to do exactly what Cho Wu put him through. Cho Wu pulls Guango away by the head, stopping the nonsense. He scolds the brat for acting up when he cannot even handle his own job properly, dragging him outside to check on the butcher shop. Kyon looks worriedly at the chaos, wondering about his own role in the shop. Jian reassures him that he will just be the shopkeeper, keeping him far away from the sharp butchery knives for now. Yan's face lights up with a massive, relieved grin at the news. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the imposing estate of the Yangko family, where the vibe is sharp, cold, and anything but casual. A brush paints dark strokes on paper as Ruagong announces his arrival at the estate. The lord of the Yangko family gives a cold command to enter, his focus remaining entirely on his elegant calligraphy. The lord stands at his desk with his back turned, exuding a heavy aura of authority. Ruagong bows deeply as the lord asks for confirmation on the report regarding the recent events in Sohung. Turning his head slightly, the lord demands an explanation for the failure. Ruagong reports that the Black Crow squad failed miserably, ending up slaughtered and buried in the ground like common, worthless trash. The news shocks the lord, who wonders if the House of Immortal Healers is responsible for the massacre. Zhuagong remains bowed, reporting that they cannot be certain about who actually wiped out their elite squad. Zhuagong explains that the healers left the Kingsom house looking completely normal, which is impossible if they had fought. The Lord scoffs, knowing his squad was too strong to be defeated by mere healers. He questions if Jian was the one responsible for the interference. Zhuagong reveals their target is actually just a man who runs a local butcher shop, a detail that sounds absolutely ridiculous to the Lord. The Lord grits his teeth in pure unbridled frustration, his mouth twisting into a snarl. Zhuagong admits they are stuck in a situation with absolutely no clues about this mysterious and powerful third party. Slamming his cup down, the Lord decides this insult will not stand and orders a messenger to the Dead Blood Forest. He sits back in his chair, his gaze sharp and full of murderous intent. Zhuagong acknowledges the order as the Lord clarifies the commission. He wants the Dead Blood Forest to investigate the truth and bring back the head of the culprit who dared to cross his family. The Lord's anger boils over as he thinks about the butcher who snatched the stalactite milk from his grasp. He decides to commission the butcher's head as well, just to vent his growing rage. Back at the modest butcher shop, the daily grind continues under a clear, peaceful sky. Hyun is already hard at work, sweat dripping as he clumsily hacks away at a large slab of meat. Hyun wipes sweat from his brow after a grueling shift at the butcher shop. He huffs and groans, feeling the physical toll of the intense labor while clutching a small cup of water. Kail-woo laughs, praising Hyun's work ethic compared to their younger brother. Hyun downs his drink, humbly admitting his skills are still bottom tier, and he finally sees why he isn't allowed to lead. Hyun watches as Chaeol-woo offers to finish dressing the meat himself. The two of them handle the heavy lifting while Hyun takes a much-needed break from the bloody carving table. Chaeol-woo asks why Guanko hasn't shown his face at the shop lately. Hyun looks concerned, noting that their younger brother hasn't been coming home and is likely deep in gang business. Jian listens as Hyun explains the rising tensions in the city. The Blood Axe Gang and the One Heart Society are clashing constantly, and the violence is spilling out into the night streets. Chaeol-woo suggests they should just beat some sense into the kid to make him quit the society. Hyun agrees, believing a few broken legs might be the only way to save him. Jin suddenly arrives at the shop clutching a parcel, her face pale with worry. Chaeol-woo greets her casually, assuming she was just out buying more books for her studies. Jin ignores the small talk and starts shouting about the chaos she witnessed. Chaeol-woo tries to calm her down, suggesting she should move around more now that her health has finally returned. Jian asks what happened as Jin's eyes fill with tears. She describes a brutal sword fight that broke out near the bookstore, where several people collapsed in pools of blood. The guy stands shocked by the news of the escalation. Gian steps forward and pulls his crying sister into a comforting hug, promising her that he won't let anything happen to Guangho. Gian tells Jin to head home and wait while the men investigate the bookstore incident. Hyun takes charge of escorting her back, leaving the dangerous work to his eldest brother. Jin trusts Jian's strength and heads off with Hyun. The remaining crew watches them leave, their faces hardening as they prepare to dive into the city's violent underworld to find their brother. Chaeol-woo asks if Gian is ready to move out. Gian nods silently while Chaeol-woo cackles, wondering if the One Heart Society is about to be erased from the city tonight. Under a glowing full moon, the scene shifts to a massacre at a local estate. Dead bodies lie scattered across the courtyard, evidence of a swift and one-sided slaughter. Thick blood stains the wooden floorboards as a survivor gasps for breath. He clutches a wound, staring up at the two monsters who just dismantled his entire squad. Two sinister warriors loom over the bleeding man with terrifying grins. The survivor realizes with horror that these killers aren't actually members of the rival Blood Axe Gang. The long-haired assassin confirms his suspicions with a cold smile. They are clearing the board so the Blood Axe Gang can take over Sochung's streets without any competition left standing. The desperate man lunges forward with a final futile sword strike. The assassin doesn't even move his body, effortlessly catching the sharp steel blade between just two fingers. With a bored look, the killer delivers a crushing kick to the man's chest. The force of the blow sends the warrior sailing backward, his body crashing through the air. The man smashes through a wooden railing and slams into the ground below. He lies broken amidst the debris, another casualty in the shadow war consuming the city. Two mysterious warriors stare through a jagged hole in the wall. Chaeol-woo hauls up the mangled leader of the One Heart Society, wondering what kind of nightmare he just walked into. Chaeol-woo recognizes the beaten man and asks if these strangers are responsible for the carnage. Bodies litter the ground as Jian stands by, calmly observing the two killers looming above. The intruders realize their target isn't present. One assassin mockingly kicks the leader's corpse, declaring the One Heart Society officially dead now that their head has been served on a platter. Chaeol-woo guesses they're Blood Axe thugs, but Jian knows better. He studies the wounds, noting the precision and lack of wasted movement. These aren't street brawlers, they're professional killers hitting vital points. Jian stares at the empty headquarters, sensing a deeper plot. He demands to know where the rest of the members went, his gaze sharpening as he pieces together the enemy's scheme. The assassins realize they've run into actual experts. Cheol-woo doesn't care about their shock. He cracks his knuckles and promises a painful death if they stay silent for another second. Under pressure, the shaken warrior points toward the Eastern Gwandi Temple. He explains the society went there to raid a Blood Axe hideout. Walking straight into a lion's den, Jian realizes his brother was lured into a trap designed to wipe out the annoyances in one go. If professional assassins are involved, Guango is in way over his head. Jian asks if more reinforcements are hiding in the city. One starts to answer, but his partner, Mahjong, frantically tries to shut him up before he leaks any more secrets. Mahjong screams for his comrade to keep his mouth shut, but Cheol-woo has zero patience for interruptions. He lunges forward, delivering a massive punch that cuts the shouting short. The strike is brutal, literally driving the man's head into the wooden floor with a sickening crunch. The survivor stands frozen, watching his partner become a permanent part of the foundation. Cheol-woo casually cleans his ear, dismissing the dead man as a buzzing mosquito. Gian ignores the gore and asks the trembling survivor what they really hope to gain here. The survivor breaks, admitting they plan to use the Blood Axe gang as a shield to seize Sohing's streets. Gian stares him down, demanding to know their true origin. When the man claims to be from the Heaven-Killing Hall, Gian calls his bluff. He knows those leaders are already dead. Shou-woo looms over the liar, ready to finish the job. Pushed to the brink, the man finally reveals their true identity, the Beidou Association of Nanjing. Cheol-woo narrows his eyes, processing the name of this hidden organization. Gian recognizes them as a dangerous, shadowy group. The assassin thinks his cover is still intact, but Gian realizes this unknown factor could completely wreck his plans for a quiet life. Cheol-woo looks down at the mess they've made and asks if they're still moving on the temple. The interrogation is over, leaving one man dead and another wishing he was. Gian nods, realizing the scale of the mess. First Hangzhou, now Sohang the underworld is shifting. He needs to move fast to pull Guango out of the impending bloodbath. Just as Gian prepares to leave, a voice cuts through the night air. He turns, spotting a figure calling out for his attention from across the dark street. His brother waves frantically, beckoning Gian over. Gian's eyes widen in surprise as he spots the unexpected arrival, wondering what new complication is about to drop into his lap. Gian rushes toward a secluded hut, his heart sinking as he prepares for the worst. He bursts inside, desperate for answers and dreading the sight waiting for him behind those thin, flickering window lights. He lunges through the door and finds Guango looking like a mummy. The kid sits up, covered in bandages from head to toe, stuttering in total disbelief at the sight of his older brother. Guangzhou tries to process the sudden reunion, but a sharp pain cuts him off mid-sentence. Behind Jian, Cheol-woo looms like a dark mountain, his sudden appearance startling the injured boy into a fresh panic. Guango grits his teeth, fuming about how those Blood Axe bastards used outside help to cheat. Cheol-woo offers zero sympathy though, calling the kid a total loser for getting trashed so easily in battle. The scene shifts back to the local butcher shop where the heavy news finally drops. Cheol-woo bluntly reveals that the One Heart Society leader is dead, leaving Guanko completely shell-shocked and staring blankly. Guangho hobbles through the beaded curtains of the shop, his arms still useless in a sling. He finds Cheol-woo busy hacking away at meat and immediately asks where Jian has disappeared to this time. Cheol-woo explains that Jian is pulling overtime at the slaughterhouse for a massive new order. 3 cows and 10 pigs are on the chopping block. But Guangho just stares back with a suspicious, tired expression. Cheol-woo slams his cleaver down, revealing that the big paycheck is actually coming from the Blood Axe gang. Guangho's jaw practically hits the floor as he realizes they are working for their most hated enemies. Guangho loses his mind, screaming about working for those thugs, but Cheol-woo shuts him up with a sharp flick to the forehead. He reminds the kid that medicine isn't free and to quit causing trouble. Suddenly, a small hand grips Cheol-woo's apron and yanks him back with surprising force. The big guy lets out a comical, high-pitched scream, caught completely off guard by the sudden, painful tug from his rear. Jin steps in, giving Cheol-woo a piece of her mind for bullying her injured brother. While the mountain of a man whines like a baby, Jin turns a cold, serious gaze toward her younger brother. Jin cuts straight to the point, asking Guanho if he's still haunted by that man named Sean. Guanho freezes, his eyes widening as he realizes his sister knows much more than he ever dared to tell. She reveals that his habit of talking in his sleep made his secrets public knowledge long ago. She knows all about the man who helped him escape, leaving Guano blushing and feeling totally exposed. A sudden jarring sound of clashing steel rips through Guanho's mind, breaking the quiet moment. He stands there lost in a daze as his past memories start to bleed into the present with violent red intensity. The memory hits hard. showing a brutal night battle filled with clashing steel and spraying blood. A younger Guanko stands paralyzed with fear, gripping a small knife while the world around him burns to ash. His mentor screams for Guango to escape before a sword pierces through his own torso. The boy can only watch in absolute terror as his protector pays the ultimate price to ensure he survives the night. Back in reality, Guanho's eyes well up with tears as he remembers the man who raised him. Chan wasn't just a comrade in the society. He was the only family Guanho truly had back then. Jian steps forward, still in his blood-stained work gear, and calmly offers to take revenge for the fallen. Xiaoru's eyes light up with pure excitement, ready to crack skulls on his boss's sudden command. Guanho wavers, knowing his brothers are strong but fearing the Beidou Association's lethal masters. They wiped out a leader and his guards with ease, making him wonder if even Jian can survive this new threat. Jian gives a simple nod, secretly vowing to keep his brother's hands clean of more blood. Guanho tries to decline the offer to protect his family, but Jian sees right through the lie and challenges him. Guanho wonders about his next move, feeling completely lost after the chaos. Jian drops a heavy hand on his shoulder, telling him to ditch the gang life for good and find a path not paved with blood. Gian suggests ranching instead, mentioning old man Jean is selling his land. Guando's brain short-circuits at the sudden career shift while the peaceful cattle graze in the distance, a world away from the underworld's violence. Cheol Wu finds it weird, since the old man seemed healthy recently. Jian explains the guy is simply bored of ranch life. He's planning to take it over to provide a normal life for the family. Guanho worries about the cost, but Jian has it covered. Their savings and a massive new meat order will secure the deal. He stands tall, looking like a man with a very solid, peaceful plan. Guanfo admits he isn't built for the butcher's shop and agrees to the ranch. Jian flashes a rare smile, pulling him in for a celebratory pat as the brothers finally find some common ground. The peace breaks when Jian and Xiao Wu walk in on the brothers. Guanko's jaw hits the floor in pure shock. He looks like he's seen a ghost, while Jian stays perfectly cool and collected. Xiao Wu mocks Guangho for looking healthy despite the tragic rumors. Guangko stammers in a panic, sweating bullets as he realizes his family has finally caught up with his lies and his dangerous gang associations. Yan delivers a stinging slap to Guangko's head for worrying everyone. Chiol Wu mocks the brat, realizing the whole dead person drama was just Guangko getting his facts wrong and acting tragic for no reason. Cheol Wu lets out a terrifying, shadowed laugh that sends Guanho into a spiral of fear. Just as he tries to retreat, Jin creeps up from behind, clutching a heavy broom like a lethal weapon. Jin screams at Guangko and thrashes him with the broom for being such a fool. His painful cry echoes across the entire village as the family reunion dissolves into a hilarious and well-deserved beatdown. Night settles over a grand estate where the atmosphere is grim. Inside, 2 coffins house the mutilated remains of elite warriors. It's a bloody, silent reminder that someone incredibly dangerous is currently lurking in Sohung. Jia Ryong and Yang Ha-chung inspect the corpses with growing dread. They note both men die from single crushing blows to the skull. The sheer power required for such a feat leaves the leaders visibly unsettled. They examine shattered ribcages and burst organs, marveling at the killer's precision. It's clear a high-level master is hiding right under their noses, and the leaders of the Beidou Association are starting to sweat. They confirm the identical cause of death for both elite members, a one-shot kill to the head. Losing top-tier fighters to a mystery master is a nightmare that threatens the Yangko family's local standing. Jia Ryong orders a discreet investigation of the area to find the mastermind. He needs to know if this was a fluke or a coordinated plot. Yang Ho-chung looks on, wondering who could be responsible. The Black Crow squad is mentioned in hushed tones. Since rumors say they were wiped out, Jia Ryong suspects the same monster responsible for that massacre just deleted his best men with zero effort. They stare into the void, convinced the killer is the same powerhouse. The realization hits hard. They aren't just facing a rival gang, but a monster with god-tier strength who could end them all. A legion of subordinates stands at attention in the courtyard. Jia Ryong suspends all outside operations and orders his men to stay on standby. They won't move until they can identify the freak behind the carnage. Back at the butcher shop, the sun beats down relentlessly on the roof. Chiol Wu is drenched in sweat, fanning himself and complaining loudly about the heat like his life depends on it. Jian hands him a bowl of water with real ice, which is a miracle in this weather. Chiol Wu is baffled, but Jian casually mentions pulling it from the basement, acting totally nonchalant. Chiol Wu knocks back a drink while asking if Hyun will freak out. Jian explains his brother is currently off collecting a debt from the Blood Axe Gang, leaving them in peace for now. The peace shatters when Hyun stumbles in with a gruesome black eye. Chiol Wu nearly chokes on his drink, staring in disbelief at the battered porter who looks like he survived a meat grinder. Jian immediately grabs an ice pack for Hyun's swollen face. He scolds his brother for wasting storage ice that needs to last until winter, but Hyun is too busy feeling the sting of defeat. Cheol-woo sees red and blames the Blood Axe bastards instantly. Hyun tries to play it off as nothing, but Cheol-woo isn't having it, ready to go on a murderous rampage for his boss. Jian demands the straight truth from his brother. Hyun finally cracks, admitting the gang refused to pay in full and resorted to violence when he pushed them to settle the bill for the meat. Hyun tosses a pathetic half payment onto the table, feeling the weight of the failure. Hyun remains silent while Cheol-woo slams his fist, his anger boiling over the blatant disrespect shown to them. Jian tries to stay level-headed about the loss, but Hyun is frustrated by the wasted effort. Cheol-woo tosses his headgear aside, declaring he's going to collect every last cent those thugs owe. Cheol-woo is dead set on getting the cash, but Jian halts him with a heavy stare. He reminds his hot-headed subordinate that a much larger power is backing those low-level gang bastards. Jian mentions the Baido Association, but suspects a deeper shadow behind them. He knows dealing with these punks could trigger a massive headache if the true masterminds decide to get personally involved. Cheol-woo suggests a simple solution: just kill everyone and be done with it. Jian shoots the idea down, explaining that endless cycles of revenge will only ruin their attempt at an ordinary life. Jian decides to treat the assault like a run-in with a rabid dog and tells everyone to let it go. He wants to avoid a bloodbath over a few coins, choosing peace over pride. Cheol-woo grumbles that rabid dogs deserve a good clubbing, not mercy. Jian brushes it off and suggests they just hit the booze storage to cool their tempers and forget the whole ordeal. Cheol-woo agrees to hold back out of respect for his boss, but he's still uneasy. He wonders what the plan is if the gang decides to push their luck and return for more. Jian's calm mask slips as he delivers a powerful kick to a wooden beam. He coldly states that if they come back, they'll follow Cheol-woo's advice and finally pick up the clubs. Right on cue, the Blood Axe thugs swagger into the shop, looking for trouble. Hyun's heart sinks as he recognizes his attackers, realizing they actually had the audacity to follow him home. Hyun panics, but Jian calmly tells him to head inside. Cheol-woo steps forward with a predatory grin, looming over the intruders and asking exactly what they think they can do for them. The lead thug demands a cut of their recent earnings, framing it as a tax. Cheol-woo plays dumb, mentioning they already pay plenty, but the thug clarifies this is his personal fee. Cheol-woo laughs at the blatant extortion attempt. The thug stays cocky, claiming his crew provides protection that allows the shop to operate in peace, so they should be happy to pay up. The thug smiles through missing teeth, calling the robbery a mutually beneficial deal. Cheol-woo finds his talkative nature annoying and cuts to the chase, calling it exactly what it is: protection money. Cheol-woo steps into the thug's personal space, his eyes glowing with terrifying energy. He towers over the smaller man, asking if he truly looks like someone who needs any protection from them. Cheol-woo grabs a thug's head like a ripe melon. The punk freezes, terrified by the overwhelming aura radiating from a man wearing a simple butcher's apron. He doesn't even use a blade. He hammers a massive slab of meat into a thug's face. The whole squad goes flying, scattered like trash outside the shop. The cowards scramble away while Cheol-woo bellows threats after them. He promises to wring their necks if they ever dare to show their faces near the shop again. Back inside, Jian casually plates some meat while checking on his subordinate's mood. Cheol-woo grumbles about the audacity of small-time thugs trying to extort protection money. Cheol-woo insists he was being polite, but Jian calls him out for literally throwing them through the door. Cheol-woo just shrugs because the punks could still walk. Jian mentions that Hyun is worried about the gang's recent aggressive movements in the area. Cheol-woo asks how Hyun is holding up after the earlier confrontation. Jian notes that Hyun is genuinely shaken by the gang coming to their home. Cheol-woo questions staying passive while these punks act out so boldly in daylight. As night falls and the full moon rises, the butcher shop duo shifts gears. Cheol-woo grins, suggesting they ditch the aprons and finally pick up the clubs. They reach the Blood Axe gang compound, mocking the flashy architecture. These thugs are trying way too hard to look like a legitimate and respected martial arts sect. Rain starts to fall as they infiltrate the courtyard. Jian keeps it professional, telling Cheol-woo to stay quiet and handle the business so they can leave quickly. Under the bright moonlight, they approach the main hall. Cheol-woo enjoys the tension, but Jian just wants to wrap this up and go back to bed. Jian flicks small stones with deadly precision. The guards on the stairs are busy yawning, completely unaware of the incoming projectiles whistling through the dark night air. The stones find their marks, dropping the guards instantly without a sound. Jian and Cheol-woo walk past the fallen bodies like they're taking a midnight stroll. Jian orders Cheol-woo to hide the bodies just in case. He finds it strange that the gang remains so arrogant despite losing so many men recently. Cheol-woo tosses a body over the wall like it's a sack of potatoes. With the perimeter cleared, Jian leads the way into the gang leader's inner sanctum. They find the gang leaders snoring loudly, surrounded by luxuries and women. Jian and Cheo Wu loom over him, looking like absolute nightmares in the dark room. Jian's eyes glow with cold blue energy as he flicks a silent strike. He paralyzes the sleeping bastard, making sure he can't fight back when the interrogation begins. Jian decides they've waited long enough and tells Cheo Wu to wake the target. Cheo Wu obliges with a crushing, heavy stump directly to the man's stomach. The leader's eyes bulge out as a horrific scream of pain escapes his throat. He wakes up to a reality far worse than any nightmare he could imagine. Cheo Wu hauls him up by his hair, dragging him off the bed like a piece of meat. The king of the compound looks pathetic and utterly terrified. The gang leader screams for guards, but Jian just stares him down. Cheo Wu plays it off with a smirk, claiming the earlier violence was a total accident while the boss looks completely unimpressed. Jian explains that sound doesn't leave the room anymore. He demands to know if this guy leads the gang, while Cheo Wu chugs wine and threatens the leader's manhood with a chilling glare. The leader hits the floor, desperately confirming his title. Jian takes a seat and asks if he knows why they dropped by, but the man remains clueless and trembling in the dirt. Cheo Wu hurls a heavy cup right at the groveling man's face. He mocks the leader's ignorance, suggesting that such a lack of awareness is almost something to be proud of. Jian catches the projectile with zero effort, crushing the metal between his fingers until it shatters. The broken shards clatter to the carpet as a silent reminder of his overwhelming power. Jian warns the man to stop playing dumb. The leader collapses in a cold sweat, paralyzed with fear while wondering what kind of monsters just invaded his private quarters. Jian clarifies he has no interest in gang politics or taking over the territory. He just wants a quiet life. But the gang's recent antics are starting to get on his last nerve. A small smile creeps onto Jian's face as he brings up the protection money. The leader realizes he's in deep trouble as the conversation shifts toward the gang's recent extortion of local shops. Jian orders him to keep the fees reasonable and match the old rates. Cheo Wu looms over the leader like a shadow, making it clear that refusal isn't an option for him today. The leader tries to deflect, claiming the decision isn't his to make. Cheo Wu loses his patience immediately, grabbing the man's head and calling out the blatant lie. They discuss the Beto Association's influence and the Hidden Dragon Squad. The leader explains the association withdrew, but the gang still pays them a heavy monthly tribute to stay in their good graces. Jian ignores the excuses and repeats the order to cut the fees. The leader stammers in disbelief, trapped between Jian's calm demands and Cheo Wu's terrifying grip on his skull. Cheo Wu pats the leader's head, threatening to roll it across the floor if he tries any tricks. Terrified of being replaced, the leader finally breaks and screams his total cooperation. Cheo Wu shifts the mood, reminding Jian about the overdue tab for the meat the gang stole. The boss stands up, ready to settle the bill for the earlier feast. Jian looms over the groveling man, demanding he pay the price for the meat he enjoyed. He makes it clear that stiffing his shop was a massive mistake. Jian scans the room, searching for the gang's hidden stash. He focuses on a specific part of the wall. Sensing something valuable is tucked away behind the bricks and decorations, Jian gives the signal, and Cheo Wu steps up. He throws a devastating punch that shatters the masonry, revealing a hidden compartment tucked away in the stone. The wall crumbles to reveal a secret room overflowing with gold and jewels. The leader watches his life savings get exposed while Cheo Wu mocks the sheer scale of the hoard. Jian grabs several heavy sacks of gold, claiming them as payment for the meat. He scolds the leader for raising protection fees while sitting on such a massive pile of wealth. The leader wails in despair over his lost fortune. Jian tosses one final sack onto the floor, calling it the interest fee for making them wait for their money. The gang leader groans in agony while Cheo Wu stuffs a massive sack with loot. Cheo Wu insists they take medical fees too, calling it unfair that they had to get hit while collecting money. The leader gets choked out as Cheo Wu raids the secret stash. He watches his precious treasure chests get emptied, realizing these guys are way more dangerous than any debt collector he has ever met. Cheo Wu sends the leader flying into a wooden shelf with a casual kick. He tells the terrified man to calculate the price of his life while the boss looms in the background with glowing eyes. The leader offers up another bag with trembling hands, hoping it is enough. Cheo Wu picks his ear, unimpressed, and mentions he is perfectly fine with cutting off limbs if the payment does not measure up. Cheo Wu hauls a mountain of gold over his shoulder, laughing at the leader's newfound appreciation for life. Jian watches the exit, deciding it is finally time to bounce. Now that they have collected everything, Jian leaves the leader with a terrifying, shadowy warning to keep his mouth shut. The poor guy is left staring at his empty shelves, paralyzed by the sheer pressure Jian exerts without even trying. The threat hangs heavy in the air as the leader gasps for breath in the dark room. Jian makes it clear that one word about tonight results in death, punctuating the point with a casual display. A soft leaf suddenly embeds itself deep into the brick wall like a steel dagger. The leader nearly has a heart attack, seeing proof that Jian is a master beyond his wildest and most terrifying nightmares. Under a bright moon, the duo leaps across rooftops with their heavy loot. They joke about how things will be peaceful now that they have sorted the trash, moving with the grace of high-level martial artists. The focus shifts to the towering fortress of the heaven-reaching demonic cult. Deep inside the Martial Heaven Pavilion, a brutal power struggle reaches its bloody climax as the cult's hierarchy gets a violent, sudden makeover. A masked warrior crashes into the floor of the Grand Hall, utterly defeated. The Hoshan squad leader gets wrecked, leaving the guards in the room stunned by the challenger's overwhelming and explosive display of strength. Guan Eng stands over the body with a cocky grin, greeting his uncle on the throne. He mocks the fallen man for not stepping aside quietly, looking completely unbothered by the carnage he just caused. Guan Pei sits on the throne, his face darkening with a mix of rage and disbelief. He did not expect his top squad leader to be taken down so easily by his nephew in this coup. Guan Pei lunges with his sword, screaming about Guan Eng's audacity in his own home. Guan Eng just smiles and dodges, telling his uncle that he still cannot read the room after all these years. Guan Eng mocks the old man for worrying about protocol instead of his own life. Guan Pei charges in a blind fury, calling his nephew a thing that does not even know its own roots. The struggle ends instantly, as Guan Eng slams the old man into the cold tiles. He laughs off the comment about roots, declaring the divine demon estate belongs solely to the son of the leader. Guan Eng stares down his uncle with pure contempt in his eyes. He points out that the old man just snatched a vacant seat the second his father died, which does not make him legitimate. Guan Pei lies face down on the floor, admitting he has no excuses left to offer. He realizes he has lost everything to the younger generation and simply sighs as Guan Eng laughs at him. The defeated old tiger has one final question for his nephew before the end. Guan Eng, feeling magnanimous in his victory, tells him to ask whatever he likes while standing tall in the hall. Guan Pei asks why his own loyal men turn their backs on him so quickly. Guan Eng reveals the harsh truth. The unit captains and a third of the elders were always on his side. Guan Eng drags a beaten warrior across the tiles, mocking his uncle with a sharp grin. He enjoys the reveal of a familiar face, knowing it will sting. A hooded figure hauls the bloodied mess toward the center of the hall, while another guard watches the grim, heavy delivery. With a casual flick of his wrist, the hooded man tosses the broken body across the floor like it's nothing but trash. Guan Pei leaps from his throne in shock as the defeated warrior slides to a stop, right at his feet. Guan Pei cradles the dying man, his face twisting in rage. The hooded figure begins to remove his mask, revealing a face Guan Pei recognizes. It is the Northern Sky Sword Demon, back from the brink. He stares down Guan Pei, looking absolutely finished with the cult's internal nonsense. The old demon stands tall, unimpressed. He draws his blade as his eyes glow with a terrifying red light, declaring he won't die today. Even King Yama can't touch him yet. A single blinding slash tears through the air, delivering a crushing blow to everyone in his path. Guan Pei and his men collapse as the hall falls into silent ruin. Guan Eng stands over the bodies, satisfied with the bloody takeover. With the leader and elders dead, Guan Eng claims the cult is finally his. He relishes the moment, thinking the hard part is over. A scout rushes in, kneeling to report the chaos outside. Guan Eng demands to know if the remaining forces are finally cleaned up. The scout admits survivors escaped the treasury with holy relics. Guan Eng's face darkens instantly at the mention of the heavenly demon ring. Losing that ring is a disaster for his plans. Without the founder's keepsake, he lacks the true legitimacy to lead the entire cult. He demands the culprit's name. The messenger identifies a traitor from the divine demon unit, and Guan Eng realizes where they are heading. The thief is going to summon Jian. Meanwhile, at the butcher shop, a visitor chats with Jun before freezing as a massive shadow looms. Jian steps in with a casual smile, apologizing because they're fresh out of meat. Jiao Wu just laughs at the visitor's visible terror. The visitors clarify they aren't there to buy anything. They've come from the Hahu family specifically to invite a butcher to their estate. Jian realizes they're looking for the old man who used to run the shop. The visitor laments that the master butcher has passed away. Jian mentions that the old man left instructions to help the Hahu family. He correctly guesses they need a butcher for a 70th birthday banquet. The visitor stands stunned, wondering how Jian knew about the private event. Jian remains cool, ready to handle the family's old business. The deputy manager raises an eyebrow, clearly impressed by the duo's steady presence. He gestures for them to produce the recommendation letter their master left behind to verify their identity before the massive job begins. A sealed envelope changes hands containing high praise for Jian's talent. The manager reads how this successor matches the old master's legendary skill, finally feeling certain about hiring these two for the prestigious family task. He warns them about the unprecedented scale of the family head's birthday banquet. Food consumption will be beyond imagination, but Jian keeps it cool and promises to deliver his absolute best for the massive event. They head to Jinhua in Zhejiang province, a city buzzing with life and commerce. The manager decides to trust Jian's reliable vibe and tells them to arrive by the next full moon without delay. The duo reaches the Hahu family estate, and even Shouwu looks dwarfed by the massive architecture. He gapes at the sprawling compound, noting that the place looks more like a castle than a simple house. A sharp-eyed gatekeeper stands guard, radiating a pressure that catches Shouwu's attention. He whispers to Jian that the guard's aura feels weirdly familiar, reminding him of a certain guy they knew back in the day. He pinpoints the likeness to a guy named Lightning, noting the identical posture and build. Wu grins, missing the old times when he used to trample that guy whenever he tried to crawl back up. The city overflows with people as merchants swarm in from every direction for the festivities. Wu questions the sanity of a 3-day feast, but looks forward to the mountain of food waiting for them. Seeing a martial arts tournament, the big guy gets a sudden itch to join the fray. Jian immediately shoots him down, pointing out that his massive frame makes it impossible to go easy or hide. Wu begrudgingly drops the idea, calling the tournament dirty to save face. He immediately spots a street vendor and drops a coin for a stick of candied fruit, acting like a total kid again. Jian sighs as his subordinate snacks like a toddler in the middle of a crowd. Suddenly, a stern-faced warrior with a top knot steps into their path, eyes narrowed as he prepares to interrogate the pair. The guard demands to know their origins and business at the Hawu estate. Gon quickly claps a hand over Wu's mouth and introduces them as the butchers summoned all the way from Shaoxing. The warrior eyes Wu's bandit-like face with suspicion, noting he doesn't seem trained in martial arts. Gion gives his hot-tempered subordinate a sharp scolding, forcing the big guy to offer a quick apology. Satisfied with the story, the guard grants them passage into the inner grounds. They enter a massive cooking area where giant pots, steam, and workers scramble to prepare for the coming full moon celebration. Nearby, the sword monster Hahu Gook stomps through the halls grumbling about judging a tournament. He'd much rather be drinking than watching nonsense, but his status in the martial world demands he stay present. His grandson, Hahu Yen, tries to calm him by mentioning the highly recommended butcher arriving for the feast. The old monster snaps back, offended at the suggestion that he's only here for a good meal. The mood turns heavy as Hahu Gook mentions a friend who recently passed away. He claims his heart isn't at ease, leaving his grandson confused about the status and depth of their supposed bond. Gook lectures the boy, stating that soul-deep connections matter far more than time spent together. The grandson remains skeptical, still finding the word friend strange since they hadn't known each other very long. The old man loses his patience, revealing he actually knew the guy for 20 years. He tells the kid to shut up and follow him as they navigate the busy corridors of the family compound. He calls the upcoming feast a dinner for the final journey and vows to test the butcher's skills personally. Meanwhile, Gion settles into his role in the stables, quietly feeding a cow before work. Gion hammers away with rhythm, his movements showing he definitely knows his way around a blade. Old man Gook watches from the side, silently acknowledging that this supposedly simple butcher was trained the right way. Gion's knife skills are terrifyingly precise, prepping meat with a speed that defies logic. Gook tells his grandson that the boy's movements are so clean and sharp, they actually give a seasoned master like him goosebumps. Wu decides to show off, effortlessly hoisting a massive barrel containing an entire cow. The crowd is stunned by his monstrous strength, whispering that he looks like he could pull mountains right out of the ground. Old man Gok realizes this isn't just about physical strength and flares his internal energy in a heated glow. He lunges forward, manifesting a deadly will to injure that forces Gion to decide between dodging or counterattacking. The old man's strike carries a heavy intent, but Gion remains calm as the pressure builds. He weighs his options in a split second, wondering if he should just step aside or shut the old guy down. Wu steps in front of the blow, taking the impact directly to his chest with his Vajra indestructible body. Sparks and energy fly as he tanks the strike, proving his skin is tougher than any armor. Hahu Yun is paralyzed with fear, recognizing his grandfather's power as the legendary sword monster. Guk, however, just looks intrigued, fascinated that a simple butcher's assistant could actually survive a direct hit from him. Gion tells the old man to quit with the pranks, because stopping him twice is getting old. Guk just laughs at the audacity, jokingly asking if he should be thanking the butcher for going easy on him. Gion only worries that the drama will delay their actual work, but Gook isn't dropping the act. The old man's gaze turns sharp and dangerous as he demands to know who these mysterious people really are. Guk finds being called a simple old man hilarious, though his ego is clearly bruised by the lack of respect. Wu isn't intimidated at all, crossing his arms and mocking the legend for having such a sharp tongue. The old man starts his classic hero speech, bragging about entering the martial world at 18 and hitting the top 100 list by 50. Jian just stares back with total indifference, clearly bored by the history lesson. Cheol Wu calls the old man's aura a petty trick and suggests they both walk away before things get real. He's ready to go all out, but Jian quickly covers his mouth to stop him from escalating further. Jian identifies them as the Hahu family and tries to keep things professional, saying they don't want trouble. He insists they are just there to do their jobs and have no interest in fighting a senior. Gok can't believe a mere butcher could casually block a strike packed with his internal energy. Gion stays in character, claiming they're just so-hung butchers pushed by the currents of life, only seeking a normal, quiet existence. The old man refuses to let it go and asks Jian what he wants, his grin turning predatory. He's spent his life licking blood off a sword and decides it's time for Jian to follow him elsewhere. They move the conversation to a secluded bamboo forest where the atmosphere turns heavy. Gook reaches down and picks up a simple wooden stick from the grass, signaling that a real martial test is about to begin. Gok tells them it's time to start as he prepares his stance with the wooden branch. Jian drops into a low, serious crouch, picking up his own stick as his casual butcher persona finally starts to slip. Cheol Wu tries to stop his boss, arguing that it's disrespectful for someone as weak as Gook to challenge him. He genuinely thinks the legendary sword monster is beneath Gion's level, which is a massive casual flex. Cheol Wu points out that Jian has only ever fought a handful of people seriously, like the Northern Sky Sword Demon. He wonders if that old geezer is still alive somewhere, probably nursing a deep desire for revenge. Cheol Wu wants to take the fight himself to sharpen his lately dulled skills against a strong opponent. Jian just sighs and tells him to do whatever he wants, though he doubts the old man will agree. Cheol Wu cracks his knuckles, promising to make the old man agree. Gok seethes, hating that he's being looked down upon by these arrogant youngsters in his own forest. Cheol Wu offers a cocky 3-move handicap, telling the elder to go all out. Gok grinds his teeth and accepts, framing it as a lesson in respecting your elders. Gok ignites a wooden branch using his blazing fire divine art, enveloping himself in a massive, swirling inferno. He looks like a literal god of flame standing in the bamboo. Jian notes the familiar yang aura while Cheol Wu gets hyped. The big guy apologizes to his boss for the upcoming mess before flaring his own blue-tinted internal energy. Gok lunges with a flaming stab, screaming about the boy's mockery. Cheol Wu charges headfirst, his eyes glowing with white light as he prepares to eat the attack. The flaming branch slams into Cheol Wu's chest, causing a blinding explosion of sparks. To Gook's horror, the big man doesn't even budge from the massive physical impact. Cheol Wu grunts through the smoke, looking completely unfazed. Gok panics, wondering if the kid's body is actually made of iron after sinking 90% of his energy into that strike. Cheol Wu calls the move disappointing, mocking the old man's peak effort. Gook stares in disbelief, struggling to process how an external cultivator can survive a strike of that caliber. Pushed to the limit, Gook channels the 9 Dragons' blood art. His flaming aura intensifies, twisting into draconic shapes as he prepares his most lethal sword technique. Gook strikes through the bamboo with a vertical fire slash. Cheol Wu meets the heat with a surge of blue power, refusing to back down from the old man's desperation. Cheol Wu counterattacks with his 16 fists, a barrage of heavy blows that shatters the air. The two monsters collide, creating a shockwave that levels everything in its path. Gok weaves through the destruction, his eyes glowing with murderous intent. He unleashes a flurry of precise flaming strikes, trying to find a gap in Cheol Wu's impenetrable defense. The old man executes the 9 Dragons slash, sending multiple pillars of fire forward. Cheol Wu just scoffs and throws a massive, glowing blue fist to crush the flames. A massive explosion rocks the entire forest, sending debris flying into the sky. Cheol Wu stands in the center of the crater, exhaling a cloud of steam like a beast. Cheol Wu wipes a smear of blood from his mouth, actually impressed he got scratched. Gook realizes his 100% power strike barely managed to break the skin. Gook refuses to quit, claiming even the hardest iron can break. Cheol Wu taunts him to stop worrying and bring it, while the old man prepares to prove him wrong. Cheol Wu readies himself for round 2, his aura turning darker. Jian watches from the mist, sensing his subordinate is starting to use the dangerous black steel Asura chi. The air pressure skyrockets as Cheol Wu creates a violent vortex of wind. Gook stands shocked, finally realizing the true terrifying scale of the fist heading his way. Cheol Wu lunges with a devastating punch that warps the air. Gook desperately swings his flaming stick upward, trying to deflect the blow before it crushes him into dust. Jian recognizes the lethal inter-family heavy hand technique and panics. He realizes that at this rate, the spar is going to end with a very dead old man.